Okay, as we are live, it should have us on YouTube, Twitch. Okay, we're live on Facebook,
We're good on Twitch.
and we should be good on YouTube here in just a minute. And there's YouTube. Okay, everything's coming up. All right, you ready?
Almost posting to Twitter now, and now heading to Facebook.
Okay.
Nice. Almost all the hashtags have emojis next to them. Awesome.
Okay.
That was a goal.
I got two watching. Let's rock and roll. Hey, everybody, we're getting a pre-show set up. We'll be going live here. Just a moment. Stand by.
Facebook doesn't let me post images on any links anymore, and I'm upset by that.
Yeah, they're being stupid. All right. And Jason sharing on Axamonitor and ADL.
Yep. So many hashtags. So many hashtags. All right, we're good to go.
All right, here we go. Let me get to this.
Star Trek Day, Lower Decks Terminal Provocations, and Mulan is a double-edged sword for Disney. All of this and more tonight on The Real Super Geeks.
Sir, he says this restaurant has the best salad bar in town.
Well, it damn sure better have.
You got a piece of the action plus every single variety.
And welcome to the Real Super Geeks podcast, live on September 11th, 2020. We have a lot of Star Trek to talk about this week, and a few other tidbits here and there, but this week was Star Trek Day, the first formally celebrated Star Trek Day online, featuring a bunch of panels with a bunch of cast and crew from all of the Star Trek series. So let's start first with introductions of my fellow hosts tonight. So let's find out who they are. We'll start with our friend from Salt Lake City, Utah, Jason Kovalik, who apparently has been demoted to ensign. How are you doing, Jason?
Doing great.
Excellent. Good to hear. Good to hear. And from next door to him in Sin City, Nevada, is none other than Sean P. O'Halloran, also known as the world's greatest Star Trek troll. How are you doing, Sean? He bows humbly.
I'm doing quite well, and pants alert. Pants alert. I am wearing pants tonight. It's a little chilly here in Vegas tonight. I think it's about 70 degrees.
What is it, down to 80?
72. So I got the pants on.
That's chilly.
You ghost fucker, you.
Yeah, we should talk about that a little bit later today. About your... Indeed. And still from the West, we've got Travis Litton from Colorado, who, of course, is well known as one of the admins of Facebook's largest Star Trek fan group. Welcome, Travis. How you doing?
Hanging in there as per usual.
Well, it is that kind of year. And our recovering mascot, Index, but now we just know and love her as Sun Seal, our favorite contrarian. Sun, how are you doing this week?
Never forget, never surrender.
Wise words. You're gonna have to put up the rest because I don't remember who I've said already so far. Justin. Oh, Justin. We can go to our stalwart producer, Justin Burton, who is over in Indiana. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Carlos. I to be forgotten.
Okay. Did I forget anybody?
Ross.
Ross. Oh, right. Of course, because we saw him at the top of the show. You love his mellifluous voice. We love his eyebrows of doom. Ross, how you doing over in Iowa
good.
today?
And decked out in my Mirror Universe t-shirt tonight.
Nice. I like it. Spock with a beard.
Oh, yes.
Perfect
We
for
all
the
look
eyebrows to
cooler
do.
in the Mirror Universe.
Maybe. Women went crazy for Spock in a beard back in the 60s when that happened.
I want to see a Mirror Universe episode where all the women have beards too. That's what I'm waiting for.
I want to
Sliders,
see.
man. Sliders.
I want to see
Oh, yeah.
a Mirror Universe episode on Lower Decks. Now that
That's
would
what I mean.
be
Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
That would be fun.
Well, I'm sure we will.
Well, we'll talk about what's coming up on Lower Decks
Boimler's the
shortly.
slacker and Mariner's the captain.
Indeed. Well, we'll get to cover all of that territory to some degree or another this week. We're going to launch right away into Star Trek Day, which was on Monday, September 8th, which is, of course, the 54th anniversary of the premiere of Star Trek on network television in 1966. And CBS put together a lot of online events, the main features of which were 8 panels covering Star Trek Discovery, Deep Space Nine, the forthcoming Strange New Worlds, the original series, of course, Voyager, which is also celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, Star Trek Enterprise, Lower Decks, of course, and Picard / The Next Generation, which they sort of slammed together into one panel since there's so much overlap in those. So before we go into some details, I'd love to hear from each of you which of the panels were the ones you found most interesting. Let's start with Sean P. O'Halloran, the pantsless one. Well, the panted ones.
I hate to be that guy, but I was so incredibly busy between work and my kids with their schooling all day on Star Trek Day that I failed and didn't see a single panel.
Okay, so I'm going
failed.
to give you an easy out, Sean. Of the news that you heard from Star Trek Day this week, which were you most excited about?
Does not compute.
Oh, because I know there was something I really got me excited, and I forgot what it is. So come back.
We'll come back around to you. Let's go over to Travis. Travis,
Hello.
what did you think of Star Trek Day?
I had fun with it. I didn't watch all the panels, mind you, but the panels that I did watch, I actually really enjoyed, particularly the Lower Decks panel. That one was a lot of fun. This is the first time that I have seen the voice actors of the four main characters kind of interacting with each other. And when they first started, if you recall last week during our show, I said that I was the Brad Boimler of this group. And they treat Jack Quaid just like Brad Boimler. Like everybody wished each other a Star Trek Day except Jack Quaid, and they went out of their way to say this happy Star Trek Day, it doesn't apply to Jack. I was like, oh, poor Jack. It was absolutely cute, and it was absolutely hilarious at the same time.
Just like you, Travis.
Oh well, thank you.
For those who don't know, we pick on Travis relentlessly in the group.
I know. I was particularly mean to Travis this week in our Super Geeks private chat. Sorry,
Yes.
Travis.
It's fine. I'm just being grumpy. Anyway, another I actually felt compelled to share the Lower Decks panel in the big group, mainly because they offered some really cool insights into the challenges that they faced, particularly during lockdown. They go into a lot of just how very unready they were to be shown as soon as they were. Because they weren't supposed to broadcast until later this year, I guess. And I guess once lockdown started, they're like, "Hey, can you maybe broadcast during August?" And they're like, "Well,"
Gulp.
it was very much like they go into stories about how they were recording lines in their closets and everything like that. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this show is like this show doesn't get nearly enough credit for just how like really polished it looks right now. So if you haven't seen the Lower Decks panel, I very highly recommend sitting through the entire 20 minutes of it. It's well worth your time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Travis. Let's head over to Sun Seal. Sun, anything strike your fancy this week on Star Trek Day?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Sean, but worse because I didn't pay attention to any of the news.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll still seek out your opinion when we get to some of the specific topics. Let's head over to Jason
Okay.
Kovalik. Jason, what did you think of Star Trek Day?
I thought it was great. We get this kind of stuff from, this is what we would normally get at a con. We didn't have a con this summer. I thought it was great to be able to supplement, the lack of a con. I kind of wish I could have had some merch. I wish they'd done some more. I wish they'd had work coordinated with a few more vendors. I know I know that Fansets had some things and stuff, but I really liked the Discovery trailer. I mean, I think that was the icing on the cake, or that was the meat and potatoes of the whole thing, to see what we're going to get in a couple weeks. And I'm really excited. We're seeing something in the Star Trek universe we haven't seen yet before. And it looks, I always, a lot of people criticize Discovery for for being too dark. And I'm the one who says you really don't understand what light is until you understand what darkness is. And the whole idea of Discovery, whether it's season 1 or season 2, and now it looks like season 3, is that you only can define light by coming through the dark. And that's why Star Trek has always been so great. When you think about the 60s and you think about today, the times are dark. And so you need that hope. And I think what's planned on tap for season 3 of Discovery is providing a lot of hope.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And by the way, extra points tonight for that awesome Next Generation hoodie that you're wearing.
And my Fansets pin.
Excellent.
Not a sponsor yet.
Yeah, not a sponsor. Let's go over to Ross, Eyebrows of Doom. Ross, what did you think of Star Trek Day?
Well, there was a lot of good stuff happening, but I was a little busy with my son's 3rd birthday.
Happy birthday, little Ross.
We took him to a auto wrecking yard and got to watch a loader tear apart a few cars. He loved it.
You didn't mind them not having faces?
Not this time, but I did catch up on a lot of the details afterward, and I loved the Discovery trailer. I like the new logo. A lot of fun teases about upcoming with both Strange New Worlds and Picard, but probably one of the most endearing moments out of all the panels is a clip that I saw of LeVar Burton crashing the Voyager panel.
Yeah. I remember this clip.
That was just awesome. Like I said, leading up to this, Mika Burton is his daughter. She's made a big name for herself in media just on her own, without the leaning too heavily on her family name. But seeing him there, just popping his head out of the side, and then watching just this endearing gushing coming from the cast of Voyager. It was so much fun.
Yeah, LeVar actually, he directed a few episodes of Voyager, as I recall, as well. So
yes,
so that's cool. Okay, well, let's jump into the big news the biggest news coming out of Star Trek Day, and that was the trailer that was released for Star Trek Discovery's 3rd season, which is coming on October 25th.
15th.
15th? Oh, even better. Thank you for correcting me on that, because it's 10 days earlier, 11 days earlier, whatever. It's way earlier than the 25th. So I'm glad to hear that. And what did we think of that trailer? It showed us a lot of things we hadn't seen before, clarified some things from what we'd seen in earlier trailers and teasers. What stood out the most for you folks from the season 3 trailer?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, they gave us a lot more in this trailer than they did the first one. You can tell everything was a lot more polished. It was good to see Jet Reno again. We were kind of wondering whether or not she was going to be part of this season, but now we know for sure she's here. And now we're going to have a cat apparently.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. It was good to see Jet Reno. I'm glad. I don't know if they're going to bump her up to to part of the regular ensemble or not. I hope they do.
Well, the ship doesn't technically have a chief engineer.
Yeah, that's true.
Stamens is a navigator.
Yeah, pretty much. The chief engineer was killed, was he not?
That's right. That's right.
And what do you think of the timeless creation with the Discovery crashing onto the planet there?
That was a big image. It reminded me of the Voyager crash from that one episode. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a stark image and exactly the kind of thing they want to hook us on. But it looks like it sustained some damage. We also see Michael Burnham, of course, is separated from Discovery for some period of time in the season. We don't know for how long. And we don't know if it's on the same planet because it kind of looks like it might be, but it kind of looks like it might not be, given what we saw of the background of the planet. Opinions?
Carlos, I want to point out, I believe that because it's been a while now, I believe at the end of season 2, not at the end of it, but like following that, when we started to see the first trailer, first teaser for season 3, I think they made it clear that
like she went through at least a year of hair changes.
Right. Well, we know that they're separated for a period of time. We don't know if they're on separate planets.
She landed on a different part of the planet. Okay. I think that's what I'm obviously not going to go back now and check, but I think that was made very clear. They're on the same planet. She just went to a different part of that planet.
It was a different time.
I could be wrong. Now the Discovery trailer, I think, was probably the best thing. Like I said, things I knew about it, the Discovery trailer. But did we not also get the announcement that they're going to start filming Strange New Worlds in the spring of 2021?
I believe that's the case.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yay!
I love the joke that's running around about it. It's the longest pilot to series
pickup
in the history of television.
Yeah, 54 years counting. Yep.
But going back to Discovery, going back to Discovery, the tidbit of story that we got. What is the burn?
The burn.
Well, you know what? Some people I saw, and I actually love this idea that it's the Omega particle from Voyager.
That's what I was thinking. And if you remember the Star Trek series that was pitched, I think it was called Final Frontier. One part that was a big part of it was a mega bomb.
Yeah.
And it caused warp travel to become.
I don't know. I feel like
undoable, unfeasible.
Yeah, right. I feel like that's a possibility. But I feel like they're going to come up with their own thing.
Because
I really hope they do.
Well, the one thing, not sure if you guys saw the panel, but basically the panel it dispelled the notion that the Federation crumbled from within.
Right.
They
wanted to make a point of that.
Right. Alex Kurtzman made a point that it was some sort of external thing that caused what we see. The burn it was something external. So I'm excited. I was nervous about that. We see that happen a lot. I like the idea of it being, and I also like that they really made it clear that the Federation isn't gone. It's just diminished.
Yeah. And I got that impression from the beginning, from the first time we saw that flag with only 7 stars on it. That's what I always figured was the case. So, yeah. So it's
it looks to me like Burnham's on Earth, because that really looks like Earth's moon in the background.
Oh, maybe I didn't really look that closely, but that's something
every shot
go back
they have
and
of her standing on that with the flag, the moon is clearly in the background. If you look close enough, you can see a tranquility.
Well, it's good to know that this season is going to have a bit more of an optimistic tone to it.
Yes,
truthfully speaking, and people have said this from the beginning, because I think we kind of all knew, based on the trailer so far, where this season was heading. I mean, the Star Trek Day, the panels on it just kind of confirmed that, and it's and when I say this, I'm not saying this to criticize, because I'm going to preface this by saying that there isn't a trope in sci-fi that hasn't been done before. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say here is this looks like Andromeda 2.0, and that's fine. I have
There
no
there
problem.
isn't a trope in fiction that hasn't been done before,
Yeah.
not just sci-fi.
Well, I don't
About by now.
I take exception to the idea that this is Andromeda 2.0. It may be a similar story, right? Like the idea that and again, like that was the Alliance? Was it the Confederate?
Also, Andromeda was not the first show to come up with the idea of the rise of a fallen civilization. It was ridiculous. Right. It was not that good a show. Number one,
the concept of Andromeda
with the second one, didn't he? There was a pilot for it about a guy who went to sleep and woke up in a feudal Bronze Age caste society.
I don't even know.
I don't remember.
There's a pilot he released after Star Trek.
No, that was Earth 2, I thought, right?
No, wasn't it Genesis 2?
Oh, Genesis 2.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We all know how the new season, how the burn happens. The Federation meets the Minbari.
Oh man, I went on a tangent in the group after I saw one too many Andromeda copy comments, and I just I wonder if people realize, if people know that there are, people have already said here that there isn't a trope in fiction that hasn't been done already, but I mean, there are millions of IPs, and it's statistically inevitable that certain stories will begin to overlap or look similar to another. And I'm just saying to myself, what matters is that the experience is probably going to be very different. Because I mean, I tried to watch Andromeda. I got one episode in, and I gave up on the show. It felt very bland.
Same to me.
It felt just very bland and uninspired, and I just don't really I get that some people might see some similarities here, but I mean, people saw similarities between DS9 and Babylon 5, and the experience outweighs the experiences of both shows are different.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That was my
and valid, both of them.
That was my point when I said I wasn't throwing shade upon the fact that it's a recycled trope, because I firmly expect that. And look, and I liked Andromeda. I think it's big stupid fun. It's once you really start getting into it, it has its own certain charm to it. But what I'm expecting is that the producers of Discovery, just based on how we've seen them grow every single season, and I'm not just talking about Discovery, I'm talking about every product they put out, whether it be Lower Decks, whether it be Picard, whether it be the short treks, how they've just continued to improve on this product. I expect that season 3 is going to be fucking amazing. I mean, that's what I'm getting at here. It's like I'm looking at Andromeda from the perspective of great idea, probably could have been executed a whole lot better. Holy shit, let's watch Star Trek Discovery do it. That's how I'm looking at it.
Well, and one of the things that Star Trek Discovery has over Andromeda when it comes to this type of story is that it has a rich set of history behind it. We know about the Federation. We know about these different races. We know how they've come into conflict, how they've become allies at different points in this history. We know what there was to have lost prior to the burn. And so that raises the stakes in a way that Andromeda never could have done.
Well, Andromeda always felt to me like it was a rejected Star Trek script.
Well, I mean, it was based on Gene Roddenberry's ideas.
Right. It's called Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda.
Yeah.
It was sold as Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. I mean, from what I understand, it was more of just a sketch outline that Majel Barrett was able to sell.
Yeah, and his name helped sell it.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just waiting.
Final conflict.
I like that show. Another show with serious problems, but I liked it.
At this point, I'm just waiting for the Samus arm cannon phaser. Thank you.
It was fun.
I want to know what that is. Is that like Sonic? What is it? I want to know what that is.
Well, you notice Burnham's reaction whenever, I guess, the guy fires it on the group of guys. He's like, "Oh my god, that's great."
Hey, and we tossed a lot of shade to Andromeda, but it gave us Spaceman Kevin Sorbo, and that's worth it on its own.
Is it?
Yes,
and it even not.
To each
it's
their
silly,
own.
stupid fun. Come
That's
on.
exactly it.
To each
It's
their
the
own,
same thing.
man.
There's
each their
actually
own.
one episode where he pulled open a drawer and it showed his Hercules outfit.
Okay, here's the
Really
thing.
on.
We're not going to spend time talking about Kevin Sorbo on this
If you want,
show. We only have so
We
much
had
time.
Carlos
We're not going to
we
spend
had
any of
Carlos
it
will-
on him.
Buster.
I will pull people out of the screen if we start talking about Kevin Sorbo.
if you want silly, stupid fun in a sci-fi show, just go watch Lex.
No, that's true.
That actually was
Oh,
silly,
that
stupid
was
fun.
pretty silly.
It was pretty silly, stupid.
Farscape.
Or
Farscape too.
literally any Neil Breen movie.
Oh God, not him again.
No. Bad Travis. No honor for you.
I liked the scene and from the trailer where Burnham lands, or she's got the computer up and she's asking if there's any life, because she doesn't know if they fixed the past.
Well,
They
that
didn't
was
know.
such a great shot.
And where
Yeah.
she's just ecstatic. I mean, that's like the hope, right? That's the idea of like, hey, no matter how bad it gets, there's a tomorrow. And I think it's so relevant. If you look at like 2020, I mean,
Mhm.
what Seal of the Apocalypse have we opened so far?
I think
Like,
we're on seven.
if you think about that way, like it's just so timely to be able to see that, hey, even no matter how the bad things may get, they get better.
And that's the thing, Jason. It's funny you bring that up because I keep thinking to myself that as bad as 2020 has been, that in this country, that we have survived quite a lot. Okay, we survived 1967 and 1968. We survived World War II. We survived a civil war.
Don't forget the Depression.
Don't forget
survived-
9/11.
We survived 9/11, right? And there's all these things that this country, based on it's incredibly perfectly and flawed form of government, at the same time, that
Don't get me started.
we've been able to persevere as a people, and I think that is one of the things that doesn't make me worry that we're going to self-destruct here, that eventually we figure it out. And I think that's kind of the message we're seeing here in Discovery in season 3 is they want to be able to get to that point again too. So,
And they always complain about Discovery doesn't have Star Trek vision. Yes, it does. It just tells it a new way.
well,
Right,
yeah, I mean,
I would-
that's the thing is that they seem to forget that all the planets and all the missions that the original Enterprise went on, they were basically going to Earth analogs. Okay, is what it comes down to. All these
Literally
different
more
planets.
than one.
Yeah.
Well, literally, some of them are identical planets to Earth. But all these planets that had their own conflicts that were mirror images of what we go through here in contemporary times. So this notion that Star Trek is this vision of a perfect future, it has always been really bizarre to me, because it's like, you haven't been paying attention if that's what you think, because that's never been what Star Trek has been about.
All right, Jason, you were going to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so one of the things that I was struck by in the trailer was Michael Burnham and the portrayal of what we see of her character in season 3. And one of the things I noticed in scene after scene that she appeared in was how much more sort of lighthearted she was. Almost as if her coming to terms with what happened with Spock, at the end of season 2, prepared her to be a little more, a little less morose about her own life, given what they've survived, and she's now trying, motivated to find her friends and colleagues, and how they bonded in a very special way at the end of season 2 as well. So I did note that in the trailer, and I thought it was a good thing to see about her character.
Carlos, I'd like to add on to that, because I thought you were going in a completely different direction, which is going to be the observation I made. I think this is the first time in 3 seasons that I've seen Burnham, who is our lead in this show, actually appeared to be the lead, is what it comes down to. she has a sense of authority in this, not a sense, and she doesn't come off as someone who is, you know, deep down trying to earn her way back. And in season 2, it was very clear as important of a role she played. You know, that was season 2 of Discovery was basically, you know, Strange New Worlds, you know, the beta.
The prequel.
Exactly. So so we all knew who was in charge in that season. It's not a criticism; it's just an observation. It's like this seems to be the season where Burnham is coming into her own as a leader. Is what it appears in this trailer, and I'm looking forward to it because I honestly think my biggest problem with Burnham as a character is that she's the lead, yet I think she's been very underutilized in that role of being a heroic lead. That's what I think.
That actually might be part of the reason why I didn't include her initially on my 30 protagonists list, honestly.
Interesting.
Interesting. She hasn't been really portrayed as a protagonist.
Well, and I agree with you about that in large measure because, you know, one of the definitions of a protagonist is that they're the ones who should be moving the story forward. Right. And a lot of what she did in season 1 and season 2 were always reacting to things. And I think one thing you do see very clearly in this trailer and in the earlier trailers for season 3 is she's at the center, she's at the forefront. She is, even when she's on her own, she is motivated, she has a mission, and she's working on it. And that kind of singular sense of purpose, it really gives this character a lot more strength and power than it had before.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey that she's finally on, is what it comes down to.
Let's talk about Captain Saru.
Yes, it looks like Saru won the captain sweepstakes. What do you guys?
He deserves it. He deserves it.
Time. He should have been captain.
Jason disagrees.
So here's the deal.
I'm so looking forward to what you're going to say, Jason.
We've had 2 seasons of Discovery. Season 1, we had Lorca. Season 2, we had Pike. So if we get Saru for season 3, does he get killed off when we get a new captain in season 4?
Don't jinx it, you asshole.
I think they're going to. I think they're going to wait and see. The thing I'm interested in is this something that happens like right away at the beginning of season 3, or is there going to be something of a power struggle between him and say Giorgio, who is also a captain and has been a leader, and
Giorgio.
From what we saw in the trailer, that Giorgio is going off on her own.
Yes, but we don't know what point in the season that happes. It certainly doesn't happen at the beginning.
Here's the thing about Giorgio. She's a fucking empress.
Yeah.
She took the job as Section 31 so she could have a broad impact. So settling down to be the commanding officer of a ship is a severe downgrade and beneath her ego.
Maybe.
And this type of post-apocalyptic galaxy is the type of thing.
This is her place to thrive.
So my thought about the captaincy, and specifically with Saru. I mean, as much as I joke about Saru not surviving season 3 if he's the captain, is that since you know the one episode where Saru's speech was given, he's been the leader of this crew. No matter even last season, even with Pike as captain, Saru has been I really do think has been the glue in this crew. So I don't think this crew would follow Giorgio anywhere over Saru. I think they would follow Saru 10 times over before, and they all know by this point that she's the Empress. So, you know.
Yeah, he does have that little bit of a inspirational speech that we see in the trailer where he says, "We may be lost, but we are together," which, you know, that's inspiring. He's good at that. We are Starfleet, etc.
And one of the reasons why the crew is so accepting of. Go ahead, Travis.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, he made number 6 on my list for a reason.
And one of the reasons the crew is so accepting of Pike is because he was willing to share authority with Saru.
Yeah,
he recognized that Saru was the effective leader of the crew, and though he had rank and the authority to assume command, he knew that he wouldn't have the loyalty of the crew if he didn't show respect to Saru.
And also, I believe, Pike also respected Saru. He made it very clear from the moment that he landed on that transporter pad and had to unfortunately take command away from Saru, but he made it very clear how much he respected him. So yeah, and I think it's I think this goes all into yes, Saru is. It's kind of like we're going to get two very good stories together here, and that is the Burnham arc and the Saru arc, and it seems like it's all gonna come together quite gloriously.
No.
I think so, and I think Georgia is going to play a role in that because I don't think she's just going off on her own. I think that she does that, and it in some way has to kind of circle back to the rest of the crew.
You know who Georgia reminds me of? Georgia reminds me of Negan from The Walking Dead. I mean, if you're watching the arc of Negan's transformation from being Negan to as he's progressed over the past couple of seasons, and I'd really like to see the same kind of cycle, the same kind of approach with Giorgio.
We've certainly seen the seeds sown for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly think
I'd love to see that expanded on because at the end of the day, this is kind of the story with Negan that was in the graphic novels and was in the comic books and was in the series. Is that Negan may be an evil bastard killing machine, but at the end of the day, he was a human being. And I want to see that humanity come out with Giorgio. Like you said, we've had the seeds planted. I really would love to see that develop more.
I think everybody is forgetting a key thing about Saru that I would like to see a whole hell of a lot more of. Angry Saru and the poison spines.
Definitely.
Yes, I would definitely like to see that.
It's worth noting that I caught an article today based on a potential Discovery storyline. Jason Isaacs pleaded the fifth on whether or not Prime Lorca might be making an appearance.
In Strange New Worlds, yeah.
In Strange New Worlds.
Oh, Strange New Worlds? All right.
Yeah.
But, you gotta think this is where Giorgio's going to wind up in the future doing Section 31 stuff. I mean, it's a perfect place for her type of a character to thrive in the future where she can take control and run things from behind the scenes. It's just her thing. It's her niche.
I thought Section 31, the concept for her Section 31, because we're beyond the time ship era of Starfleet, right? Would be really cool is if we had a Section 31 time traveling show.
Could be.
Where Giorgio's the one who shows up and bitch slaps time continuum violators.
Well, I mean, it goes back in time to kill people worse than Hitler.
Right. I mean, it could be she's intervening in Section 31 is intervening at key moments in history to protect the timeline and stuff like that. I mean, I think that could be a good take on it. That
it was called Assignment Earth. Yes.
Exactly. That's my point. Like it could
also quantum leap.
Okay. Look, Jason, we all want Assignment Earth. We've all been wanting Assignment Earth forever. So just come out and say it. We just want Assignment Earth.
Coming in 2022 to CBS All Access.
We bring in Shazad Latif, right? And the two of them are time traveling, bumping through Starfleet's history, writing the things that have gone wrong. With the cat.
Like that. And it'll be good.
Grudge the cat. Perfect.
She leaves with Grudge Cat.
Look, if she takes the cat, can we have a pet tardigrade at least?
Just don't try paying for them through PayPal.
Yeah.
Oh, did you guys hear about that today?
Yeah,
I did. Yes.
The news that PayPal will not allow financial transactions to go through if the word tardigrade appears anywhere in the transaction. So if your website has PayPal set up as one of the means for you to collect money from people, payments from people, and you sell something with tardigrade in the title, they will refuse to process the transaction.
Why is this a thing?
Well, had to do a little bit of research about that today. It turns out that that there is a Cypriot terrorist-linked organization called, I think, Tardigrade Unlimited or something like that. It was a
God,
shell company
dang.
that was set up for funneling money through to Muslim terrorists, and so it went up on the list that the government puts out of companies you cannot do business with if you're an American, and so that word has become part of what PayPal is, bound to.
Well, that's a shame.
PayPal basically works the same way Facebook does, is what it comes down to, where there's not actually human beings doing anything. They just put in a bunch of keywords that get their attention.
YouTube.
So freaking stupid.
No, there's enough people there to make decisions, at least, and then let the algorithm go.
But for me, the big news was how much goddamn stuff there is about tardigrades for sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Anas Abdeen, but
Captain Tardigrade, defender of the multiverse.
Well, Eaglemoss is screwed, and Eaglemoss is screwed. David Gerald is screwed because he sells plush tardigrades. So,
of course he does.
He's not screwed.
Does he sell plush tardigrades?
He just can't use PayPal. He just can't use PayPal.
Well, you're there. Just change the name. Call them Plush Dribbles. There you go.
This seems like a bug that
just
might
water
be
bears.
fixed in the near
call
future.
Tardigrades. There you go. I was going to point out something about Giorgio too, is that like last season, what I picked up about her is that, and we've discussed this before, Giorgio adapts. I don't think Giorgio is inherently someone who needs to be a dominant power, a sadistic human being. I think Giorgio is the type of person who adapts in order to, at the end of the day, protect herself. She didn't really do anything last season to undermine anyone.
Except for what's his name, the captain of the Section 31 captain, Leland.
Yeah,
Leland.
That's because I was a bit of a douche canoe.
Forgot about that plot.
Yeah, but
she is pretty sadistic. When Leland was at her feet, writhing in pain and agonizing death, she stood over him and laughed quite satisfactorily.
Yeah, but that wasn't Leland, though.
That wasn't Leland, though.
Okay, true, but still,
he was
she was taking a lot of pleasure in something's demise, gleeful pleasure.
Well, yeah,
she adapts. She might not be inherent. She's chaotic good.
Yeah, we saw her
or lawful evil.
Chaotic
lawful
neutral.
Evil.
Look, she knows that Burnham is not her Burnham yet. The way that she dealt with her was she was protecting her. She was trying to protect her, and it was clear. And she wasn't trying to fuck everything up for everyone else either. So it's like I don't have this idea that she's going to be a force of destruction in season 3. I'm just not seeing that. Like I said, I'm getting more of an idea of her like being Negan, in that she is a fucking survivor, is what it comes down to, and she will survive no matter what she has to do.
I wouldn't have called her a force of destruction. She does what needs to be done. She was willing.
She's a bulldozer.
She was willing to burn Kronos to the ground, but like you said, that was to survive.
Yeah,
she doesn't give a shit. She does what she needs to do, and she don't care who she screws in the process.
Well, and she also murdered her entire courts without a second thought with the fidget spinner of death.
Yeah.
Travis's favorite toy.
Yeah, all she needs is a down barbed wire, and she's all set. That's all she needs.
All right, so so let's move on to the other bit of news that we had about future Star Trek that came out of Star Trek Day. And that was a kind of a cryptic hint given by Patrick Stewart about season 2 of Picard, in which he said that the first 4 episodes of the series are unlike any Star Trek he has ever seen before. And I linked to an article out of, I think it was Inverse, that went on these huge speculations about what that might mean. But
it's the first 4 episodes of The Mandalorian. That's what he saw. I don't know.
There's this little green alien that this armored guy carries around.
So, are you guys heartened by that little cryptic clue?
I'm only excited. I'm excited.
Didn't he say something similar about season 1?
I mean, and he was right.
He was right.
So I thought Picard, flaws and all, I thought Picard was excellent, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. And I'm sure, like I said, these guys, these producers, these writers, they got their training wheels off now, and they really are. You know how I know they have the training wheels off? This is how dumb this is. I'm at the point where I've realized that Lower Decks shows us exactly how strong the Star Trek franchise is. That's where I'm at with this, because of how well done Lower Decks is. It's like these fuckers all know what they're doing now. It's clear. So expect an amazing season 3 Discovery.
Discovery season 1 was getting their legs wet again. Discovery season 2 was a little bit better, and now we have Picard season 1 getting even better. Lower Decks, holy shit! I cannot wait for season 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Did any of you expect Lower Decks to be as good as it is?
No,
it's actually a surprise.
I thought it would be good.
I did.
It was rushed.
I think I would love it this much. I thought it was going to be good. Just I was not expecting it. I did not expect to fall in love with the show.
I wasn't really surprised. It's really, really fun.
Like I said, guys, check out that panel if you have time. It's well worth your time.
Okay, Jason,
I'm surprised how many of the most brutal cynics Lower Decks has won over. Lore Reloaded, for example, is one of the best reviewers on YouTube, and I really like his take because his perspective is so different from my own. But he is head over heels over Lower Decks.
Well, didn't he get one of the animated avatars too? Lower Decks avatars.
Did he? I don't know. I don't remember.
He really loves that. He was one of the ones that used to be against the Trek ago, but now he's all like, "Hell yeah, Lower Decks."
Jason, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought that the idea of of an animated Star Trek would do really well, especially if it was set more of a comedy. Somewhere along the lines of farcical. And I mean, I understand that Lower Decks is supposedly canon and all that, but it is a little farcical. It is a little bit of irreverent humor. I don't know if I've said this on the show before. The Orville is Star Trek, 90s Star Trek with dick and fart. It's a carbon copy, like the carbon copy of 90s Star Trek with dick and fart jokes sketched in.
Ex-wife jokes. Lots of ex-wife jokes.
Yeah. Sketched in, right? Like with a pencil. Whereas Lower Decks is in the spirit of 90s Trek, telling, with the same feel, telling their own stories, right? We're not getting rehashed TNG stories. We're getting their own new stories with smart, kind of, laughing, kind of making the Star Trek, the situation or the, kind of a little bit more of irreverent towards the seriousness that people take Star Trek with. And that's what's great about it. It's hilarious. I enjoy it. It lets me laugh at myself.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I've said this before that, it's after being a fan for as long as we've all been fans, and you've got 700 episodes, you've got 7 live action series, now 2 animated series. You get to a point where you've seen it all, and you start going back and looking at it and going, some of the stuff is just really fucking nuts in this show. How is this even a thing? And Lower Deck says, "Yep." And this is what we're gonna, and we're gonna laugh with you about it, and and that's why it's so incredibly charming. Of course, they're doing everything a good Star Trek show should do, and that is focus on the the characters and the storytelling at the same time, while pointing out the franchise's fun little quirks. So yeah.
So I've come up with a theory.
Yes, son.
Okay, so this will follow in the spirit of season 1 of Picard. The first 4 episodes of season 2 of Picard are him having a positronic acid trip every time he closes his eyes.
Like Data's dream.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like that fucking koala.
Remember the first 4 episodes of the first season was every time he dreamed, Picard was having these weird dreams. And now that he's got a positronic brain, who the hell knows what he's dreaming of?
Can we get a Troy cellular peptide cake?
Oh God! Stop
that still freaks me out.
Like the dream.
All right, so we have devoted a lot of our last several minutes to Lower Decks. So why don't we move into formally our weekly segment, Lowered Expectations, in which we review the most title card, in which we review the latest episode 6 of Lower Decks, which came out a couple of days ago, and of course that was an episode in which we got to see holographic Bajor. We got to see.
Do we need a spoiler alert?
Can I teach you a lesson?
Yeah.
Yes, we saw.
Spoiler alert.
Thank you, Jason or Justin, for pointing that out. Yes, one of the things we saw was their first formal holodeck program gone wrong, and it went way wrong in the best possible way, introducing the character of Badgie.
You want to know what's funny? I literally, the day before this episode came out, I was literally just thinking to myself, I wonder if we're going to have a holodeck gone bad episode this season. And lo and behold, it happens. It's just...
And it happened in the best possible way because they resurrected fucking Clippy from Windows XP, which is, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Now, the best part of Clippy was this Clippy, what does he do? Of course, when he's trying to load a program, he fucking freezes. Yes. Through Windows XP.
Just like Clippy used to.
It's the best part.
Freeze everything.
I'm actually a little surprised that it took us this long to get an anthropomorphic comm badge.
No, it's certainly
I'm just happy they finally did something like that in a holodeck character. Well, they kind of did in that one Voyager episode with the interactive characters a little bit, but
not even close.
This highlights kind of what I just said. We took a very Star Trek-y thing, right? The holodeck gone bad, but told its own story and brought in a freaking anthropomorphic badge.
Right.
I'm gonna kill you, Daddy.
And that's funny about it. It's like of course it's the old question of that we as Star Trek fans have been asking for 30 years here, is that why the fuck aren't the safety protocols on by default? How can they possibly ever go off? Yet it happens all the time.
The power goes off. The power disruption. Instead of shutting off the freaking holodeck, which seems to make sense, they just disabled the holographic safety protocols.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb, but
logical.
Well, apparently that one computer core controls a lot of different things, or it was some kind of cascade effect.
What's so funny about this is that for the first time, because if the safety protocols really went off on a holodeck, the kind of blood and mayhem that you saw in this episode is exactly what would happen. I mean, and that never happened on TNG or any of the other episodes.
It would go full on Westworld up in that bitch.
Exactly, exactly. Dude, you got it. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, well, we kind of saw it when the Hirogen took over Voyager.
Right, but they just kept healing them up. I mean, they kept patching them up. And
one of the best two-parter, one of the best episodes of Voyager ever.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
So there's a serious problem with all Federation ships. That is, they have a redundancy for every other system on the ship except the fucking holodeck.
Well, the holodeck is its own a separate system.
Well, that's the holodeck has always been something that you don't want to stare too long at the technology behind it, because it just sends you off in a lot of bizarre directions. And to Lower Deck's credit, they're exploring some of those bizarre directions.
Like the waste filter.
Yeah, like the waste filter.
And as it was noted, the holodeck is not just for hanging out with Sherlock Holmes, Robin Hood, Sigmund Freud, Cyrano de Bergerac, Einstein, Da Vinci, Stephen Hawking, and Socrates. I thought it was great.
And many others he continued to name. Right. As the camera cut away.
I want to say one thing. If you're going to go on the holodeck for more of the adult variety, stay away from the Xena on the top fantasies on the holodeck. In the event you lose the safety protocols.
Can I just
what you would do?
Can I just say how much I loved Shax in this episode?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we wanted to.
Please,
Let me
I've got
fire.
their phasers on the warp core. Please let me shoot the warp core. I've
The
been very
entire-
good this month.
The intro log was him like basically giving shit to the captain for not letting him fire phasers.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah,
right whenever he thought he was going to be able to fire the phasers, they went offline.
Interestingly, of the three plots in the standard three plots in this episode, A plot was Mariner Boiler, B plot was Tendi and Rutherford, and C plot was the bridge and dealing with the scavengers and so forth. I felt like the B and the C plots were actually stronger than the A plot because what's his name? Fletcher.
Yeah.
He just, I never really understood what made him all of a sudden go from this super competent guy in the first half of the episode into this completely discombobulated guy in the second part of the episode.
I think that was just a failure of the characterization. We got he was a master negotiator, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a very smart individual.
He's a
Like
bullshitter,
he can
what
talk
is.
somebody down. He can talk somebody down from a crisis, but at the same time, you put him at a computer terminal and tell him to do something, and he draws a blank.
Yeah, he's a
It's
bullshitter.
part of a character flaw that wasn't very well introduced.
Mhm.
I
And
just
then when
assumed
we-
that it was just a product of him getting his brain scrambled by the core.
Maybe.
Well, he realized he was an
Maybe.
idiot. That's why he scrambled his brain with the core. That was his own.
That's right.
self-awareness.
That's right. That was his motivation.
What about the name drop? We heard Titan get pulled up
Yeah.
there towards the end.
Yep.
6 days he made
And
it under Wesley
I-
Crusher before he got fired.
Titan is officially canon now, by the way, kids.
Well, it was canon in Nemesis.
Yeah.
But yeah, not really. Is it the
Yeah, it
best?
was.
Yeah,
it
well,
was.
it was
Yeah.
name
It
dropped.
was actually
It was
mentioned.
name
Yeah.
dropped.
If you count Nemesis as canon.
But here's the thing,
We-
though. I don't.
we do.
I believe that Nemesis is only mentioned in, or Titan. The Titan is only mentioned in the deleted scene. In
No, it was in
it's
Picard's
definitely
speech.
not.
It was in Picard's
Oh,
speech.
you're thinking
Okay, well,
of
here's the thing.
And
version-
I am here to fulfill my solemn duty as best man. And
Okay.
while my dear friend Riker is off to command the Titan, I will be training my new first officer. You all know him. He's a tyrannical martinet. All right, I'm done.
shit, man.
Thank
Wow,
you.
I'm impressed, Ross.
I am too, because normally I don't remember speeches from floating turds, and that's pretty impressive.
Oh.
At least
Ouch.
the
Really?
dirt isn't being thrown. my way.
I mean, I'm not even criticizing it. It's the film that's so. The fact that you put that amount of effort into it is incredibly impressive. I'm not, no hate at all. I'm quite impressed.
I will say about this episode, best cold open ever. Just everyone sitting there and humming the different
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
of the warp core.
Oh
Just-
yeah, that was classic. That was classic.
I think
Because I'm not gonna lie, we've all done it.
No, that's Enterprise D. No,
I
no.
haven't done it.
That's Voyager. Remember, Voyager was more like.
And of course, the reality is, how do they get the sounds for the warp engines? They put a microphone up to an air conditioning duct. That's how they did it. All it is, folks. Nothing more complicated.
I still think I like the heavy metal cold open just a bit more, like
That's pretty
from
cool. I like
episode
that.
3.
That's fun.
The intense bass always gets me.
Well, just the sheer geekiness of the moment where they're all conjuring these sounds from memory and trying to reproduce them. And then Ransom's reaction when he walks in and having no idea what's going on.
There's something wrong here.
Why is Ransom always carrying a phaser all the time? Has anybody asked him?
It's just his way.
Doritos, would you not carry a phaser all the time?
Ransom is the Starfleet equivalent of Homelander.
God, that's
Ouch.
harsh. Oh man.
Ouch.
He's not murdered. Well, no.
In
You know what would be
temporal,
great? It would have been a great gag on that.
Boimler had a phaser on him.
Yeah, if instead of pulling a phaser out, would have been a great gag, and it would be a great recurring gag if he just ripped off his shirt like he did in that episode.
That was pretty funny. Ross, what was
That'd
the
be great.
Ross, what was it you just said? I didn't.
I was saying even everyone seems to have a phaser on them at all times. Boimler had a phaser on him in Temporal Edict when the crystal psychos were all over the place.
Yeah, they actually and when the zombies came, everyone had a phaser. They must be close at hand, which we've never seen before, actually.
And
Well,
I
think that the Federation has with phasers. Yes, they're weapons, but they're also tools that they use in everyday work. After Temporal Edict, when they were trying to get Mariner off, she was down in the bowels of the ship cleaning the carbon filter with a phaser.
Yeah, it seems like a phaser would probably be
it's that's the equivalent of like guys in the ship going up to the armory and like grabbing a 9mm and just start trying to shoot the ship.
They were calibrating the force fields in the brig with a phaser.
I know.
I had it on stun. I just had it on. I had it on stun.
Well, after Dominion War, phasers could be part of the uniform code. That's pretty soon after Dominion War, so who knows?
I doubt we're going to see people just carrying around phaser rifles for no reason. Those are clearly weaponized versions. Yeah. But I think what we're seeing here is the idea that the hand phaser is more like a pocket knife.
It's a Swiss Army.
It is. It's like a Leatherman.
Yeah.
Brownie points.
I believe it.
We're running the TOS engineering the TOS bridge in the background.
That is not me.
No, I heard that. I heard that. Who was that?
Who's running the TOS bridge in the background?
Jason.
Okay.
Of course it is. I believe it was Lore Reloaded who made a video on the phaser, but he very much compared whoever did this video compared the phaser to things like the Disruptor. And they note that the Disruptor doesn't have like a stun setting. It's very much a weapon designed to kill.
That was a certified game, I think, who did that.
And he notes that the phaser is very much used in multiple ways. Officers heat up rocks so they can keep warm. They stun people. It's and we're seeing a whole bunch of uses here on lower decks. It very much is a tool more than just a weapon.
I wanted to point out that in the opening scene, it occurred to me that the whole premise of the conflict, the Drachmani are right. They were right from the beginning. They got there first. We're in a salvage, man. That was theirs. Starfleet didn't really have any claim to that shit.
What is that?
I know, Johnny Captain, voiced by J.G. Hertzler.
Yes, J.G. Hertzler. An interesting appearance.
And he has the greatest line ever of all the characters ever played. And when the captain says, "We can work this out," fuck you. It was,
fuck you.
I love how they bleep it out as soon as they say it.
It's funnier when they bleep it out
every time.
It's funny. It was.
They got all the profanity. The doctor had a few choice words for Mariner in this episode that were bleeped.
You.
Hey, we'll sign you to Starbase 80.
Damn, Starbase 80.
Why did it have that universal gasp?
Now we kind of want to know what Starbase 80 is and why everybody hates
that
it.
joke has to pay off later in the series.
Yeah, it really does. It has to. I am looking forward to an episode that focuses on the Doctor because she's hilarious.
I love Ta'ana.
Mm-hmm. And she got quite familiar with Jackson this episode briefly.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah.
Stay away from the Rule 34 sites, everybody.
Bow chicka meow meow.
Ooh, well done, Jason.
He's been waiting all week to do that. You know he has.
Okay, so let's talk about future Lower Decks. We obviously got a teaser for next week, but on Star Trek Day, we actually got a teaser for the second half of the first season, so the back five. So, thoughts on what you think we're going to be seeing in the next several episodes of Lower Decks?
We're getting a bit of
me.
Say again, Ron?
We're getting a bit of Q.
Yes, we're getting Q.
I know everybody's freaking out about. I know everybody's.
Carlos's chagrin. We're getting Q.
Actually, not to my chagrin. I think that Lower Decks is the perfect show to have Q in. For exactly the reason that Justin has put up that clip from TNG.
I know that everybody's freaking out about Q in this trailer, but I'm just happy that Captain Freeman found her warp catchphrase. I am looking forward to hearing her say,
that was awesome.
Warp me.
Warp
me.
I loved that. Thank you for bringing that up, Travis, because
You're welcome.
That was the biggest laugh I had of the entire episode, actually. Warp me. I thought for this episode, in terms of being funny, it did not have as many LOL moments for me, but it was overall a very funny episode. Like, I smiled a lot. I felt really great about the story and the characters. So to me, that's the important part. So I was glad that Warp Me gave me the at least one big laugh out loud moment.
Good.
I really appreciated the fact that they got rid of Fletcher by promoting him.
The only downside to that
military thing to do.
The only downside to that is 6 days later he should have been promoted to lieutenant commander, moving to another ship, not fired.
Well,
it's
kind of hard dumping garbage in the warp core.
No, but Fletcher should become an incompetent admiral.
Did you guys catch the sarcastic Vulcan salute from both Boimler and Mariner after they hung up on him? I'm telling you right now, that better become a series staple. I want to see more of the sarcastic Vulcan salute.
It's been almost every single episode is about.
Yeah. You know, this show is fun.
It is.
This episode, what I really liked, and they stated it in the episode itself, that Boimler and Mariner were working together. They weren't working against each other at all in this episode. They were joking, they were laughing, they were hanging out, went to the choo-choo dance. I loved that whole everything about
and then remember when they had the third chew, and then it became the choo-choo dance?
I know you all cried, don't lie.
Yeah, they are making shirts of the choo-choo dance already.
Yeah, choo-choo dance shirts. Oh, I
yes.
guess.
So I have another
whatever sells, man.
Very reminiscent of Rick and Morty's mocking of pop music on that show, which I thought was really quite brilliant.
What were you going to say, son?
I have another theory. Starbase 80 is the starbase closest to the First Federation. Therefore, it sees absolutely no action at all whatsoever.
Tranya for everybody.
Lots of man babies hanging around.
I thought that was the Axamonitor group.
Let's not throw.
Get into that.
Thank you, Stalwart Justin.
I figured that Fletcher is basically a completely stupid, incompetent Barclay. That's what I got out of this episode. So.
But he looked like Chief O'Brien, don't you think? Curly hair and of course, he had those really stout shoulders compared to Boimler.
Talk his way back into somebody's good graces eventually, I'm sure.
Well, he isn't Edward, so
yeah.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if they said he wasn't related to Edward.
Okay, so any last thoughts on Lower Decks before we move to our next topic?
I'm going to be sad when this show's over for the season.
Yeah. I am too.
I'm not, because I'm just going to go back and rewatch them all. They're re-binging.
There is a lot to see in each one.
There is a lot to revisit. I've watched each episode at least 3 times.
Me too.
Not like, but this has just been like in the world of 2020, where we have COVID, we have pandemic, we have fires and earthquakes, and the 7 seals of the apocalypse being open. Now we have now we have Yellowstone about to explode.
Stop it! No, stop it!
This has just been. This show is one of the most fun shows on television right now, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And it's been a highlight of my week every week. Every Thursday morning, I wake up looking forward to watch it before work.
I agree.
What do
I
you guys
mean,
think
it's
about
so
the
good.
stream next week?
I stay up as soon as it drops. I'm probably one of the first people
Yeah.
to watch the thing.
Amazon sucks. I can't watch it that night because I tried again 1:30 this Wednesday night and it wasn't available. I just went to bed.
Well, it is on the CBS All Access website. It's up almost instantly. I'm like, yes. Like,
So yeah, I have noted there has been a shifting in the zeitgeist about this show as it has progressed. I think Ross, you were the one who pointed out more and more people are kind of being won over by it, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's true. I think we're definitely.
I've
seeing
noticed
that.
a lot of usual critics, especially on Twitter, are actually favoring this show. I mean, they still mock the hell out of Discovery, but they're waiting on what season 3 is going to bring. They're actually, a lot of them are happy with Lower Deck, so we'll see.
Did you guys notice that the Delta shift was basically the Mirror Universe version of the Beta shift? Did anybody?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Again, the guy with the eye patch.
Once again.
Delta shift.
It's like a shift, night shift. It's so great. I love it.
And what I loved,
they have more free time.
What I loved about it was another excuse for them to do the choo 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 joke again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
was a great unifier. It was a great unifier. The choo
It really was.
The choo-choo dance.
It's
Travis, you get the final word.
The final word is that Rutherford and Tendy need to fucking kiss already.
No!
The ship is real, bastards.
No, you can ship them, but their love is so sweet and so innocent that it shouldn't become spoiled so quickly.
It's also full of a lot of theft.
Consummation.
I agree. Somebody needs to fuck a candle ghost first. That's really what has to happen.
Get fucked, Sean.
No. Next subject.
No. Bad.
Okay. I think we'll leave that subject there and we'll move on to the release this week, also on Star Trek Day, of the possibly long-awaited fan film, First Frontier, which was released on YouTube on Star Trek Day. And it has gotten a wide variety of reviews, and we can talk about that, but has also become somewhat controversial. My fault, sorry.
You.
Yeah, Carlos.
It's all your fault.
Well, it was just an observation that apparently among the Axamonitor people, I'm evil incarnate.
Well, apparently I have it's bad to have morals, I guess. So, who knows?
I don't know what morals has to do with it. I just think it was. Carlos, explain the background on this and why you made it controversial, please.
Okay, so I watched it because I'd seen the trailer and I knew a bit about it. As it was being made. It's been about 5 years in the making, and
it was started before the guidelines.
Yes, but it was not completed before the deadlines. I think they had done some filming. The guidelines, right? So anyway, so they completed it. It's feature length, and I watched it. I was interested in seeing it, and so and just I want to be clear about this because Jonathan Lane, for some reason, thinks I'm lying when I said that I liked it. I did like it. I have encouraged people to watch it. I think there's a lot to like in it. It has its flaws, and just because I like it doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to point out its flaws, like its glacial pacing, its terrible editing, its really terrible sound mixing. I think on the acting front, it was pretty good. The guy they got to play Robert April, I thought was particularly good. I think that the evil aliens plot was way undercooked. They were like so generic and with these weird VFX around them. The VFX in this were bizarre because in some ways they were really great and other ways they were awful. Like the phaser beams were awful. They were even worse than the phasers as we saw them in the original '60s show.
Were they worse than the Turkish Star Trek effect?
Oh, probably not worse than Turkish. Probably not worse than Turkish.
Did they use? I bet you I know what they use. I haven't even seen it, but I'm going to bet you I know what they use. They probably use the same phaser effect that Justin put on my fan film.
But what's weird about it though is that that Samuel Cockings was working with them, and
That doesn't make sense at all.
And he's frankly
Really
better
good.
than that.
No,
he's no Tobias Richter, but he does better than what we see in this film.
Oh my God!
I think Samuel does really good work, but from what I can tell from what people are saying, because I got literally 30 seconds into it and I said, "What the fuck is this?" And but from what I can tell, it sounds like this was so uneven because it's like half contemporary and half looks like a fan film is what I understood. That half of it looks professional and half of it looks like a fan film, and that's the problem here. Like there's some scenes that apparently have actual physical models, and yet there are some scenes that use CG and
not that good CG.
Yeah, that was my point.
And that's the thing. Samuel Cockings is pretty good. I mean, that fan film that he did. I mean, that was the one standout.
Well, I think
what I understand in my talking with Samuel is he kind of came in late in the game to this, and a lot of the CG shots were not his. He did 96 shots, I think he said. That's why there's so many different shots throughout the whole thing. I mean, it's all different, every bit of it.
Yeah. It's probably had multiple people working on it.
One thing I want to say is that you cannot compare an actual video image to CGI yet. We're just not there. So if you're going to go back and forth between model and CGI, it's going to look disjointed no matter what, especially when you're filming the Enterprise leaving space dock and you're doing that. That's going to look disjointed as hell.
And the problem with the space dock scenes, they clearly invested a lot of time and effort in the space dock scenes. We know that because there were 20 of them.
And they built an 11-foot model.
Yeah, they built an 11-foot, which, by the way, they will sell to you if you like, which goes against the guidelines. But we'll get to that in a second. So it made for a very uneven. They reused that one stinger from the Wrath of Khan soundtrack over and over again, so that it completely lost its impact by the third time.
Was there any original music in it whatsoever?
No, it was none of it was original music.
Yeah. I have a rant about the music when we get there, but
we are there, so go ahead.
So I have seen The Wrath of Khan probably more than 100 times between The Wrath of Khan and The Searcher's Box. Some of the greatest, in my mind, James Horner's score is one of the most epic filmographies. He said a couple times to perfect it before we get to Wrath of Khan, right? So we had Battle Beyond the Stars and Alien, but by the time we get to Wrath of Khan, this score is perfect. I mean, in terms of when I watch it, like the score drives the emotions that I'm feeling. So I am emotionally connected to this score. When I'm driving down the road and I throw on the Wrath of Khan score, yeah, I'm that guy. I'm wearing a freaking Star Trek hoodie and a badge. So when I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to the Star Trek, the Wrath of Khan score, I can, in my head while I'm driving through traffic, visualize like the battle of the Matar Nebula. I can visualize the crewmen sliding down the stairs, them running through the hallways, the torpedo going out. So imagine when you're listening to this score to something that's completely different, it completely yanks me from what I'm trying to watch and puts me back into the moment in the Wrath of Khan. And so it was really hard to watch this fan film and stay engaged at all because of the score.
Well, my biggest problem with it was not only the music, which you hit the nail on the head with that. That's one of the biggest problems with that. Was the sound design in general. Is it's like sometimes the sound effects would wash over the actors, and you can barely hear what the actors say. Or sometimes I guess it was meant to be the other way around. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's just like it was all hastily thrown together at the last minute with no preview whatsoever, where someone would actually catch all.
It seems to me that would have been a very easy thing to catch and fix if they'd just shown it to someone else to just get a technical input on it because it's so obvious. I mean, it's like there's so many people who just, it's so obvious to them.
Well,
One of the things I've learned as a filmmaker is that an audience will forgive any number of visual mistakes or inconsistencies. What they do not forgive is sound problems. They just don't.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's something that could have been easily corrected in post production, like a lot of this stuff was. I mean, if you went back in and got someone to compose them an original soundtrack, which there's plenty of composers that will do track work out there. I mean, just for mentions usually alone, sometimes you can find them all over the place. Go in and fix the audio issues and release it. This would not be a bad film. It's not a bad idea overall. Its delivery is what the problem is.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, the story and acting were fine. I enjoyed. I mean, like this wasn't about aliens killing people. This was about Captain April and where he was in his life. Going back to the earlier discussion where like recycled story beats. This is a recycled story beat from the Cage, right? Mm-hmm. Where April loses people and he's kind of pressed back into service, or he's kind of put in a situation where he has to refine his love for what he's doing, and so very similar to that. And I'm okay with that, but so the alien plot was fine, but again, like the two things that really pulled me on the story every time was it's almost like they shot this thing with 2 or 3 different cameras.
That's what I think.
So the image would be like, it would go from dark and grainy to super crisp and clear, back to dark and grainy to super. And so again, like that disparity, like I'm a guy who can watch Project Potemkin episodes. I enjoy them. They're fun. The story's good. It's just neat to see people express their fandom, which is what fan films are about. But when you have these glaring things that pull you from the story, it doesn't make it for an enjoyable experience.
Well,
and I don't want to throw stones because I worked for Hidden Frontier and we had green glows around people, so I can't really.
I mean, even the worst fan film pays attention to audio design.
Yeah, that's the problem is the audio design, and I've seen this problem in other a lot of people's first films. Where they get someone to come in and do the music, and they become so enamored of the music that it literally shows. They do it too loud. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. And as a producer, I've had to go in and I've had fights with the sound guy who's like, "No, you're making it disappear." And I'm like, "But it's supposed to be an underscore, not an overscore." And so it's something I've seen before. And so on that level, it doesn't surprise me that we see it, rear its head here. So again, I don't want to cast too many technical stones at this, except the sound one I think is valid just because it was so easy to fix. I can even forgive the really obvious like matting in the scene where they were compositing one of the starships over something else. I forget what it was, but like you could see the matte screens. It was like it was so obvious. But anyway, the reason this was that I wrote about it was not a review. I did not write a review of the film. I watched it. I generally liked it. I forgave the sound and other problems. Generally liked it. Then I'm watching the credits, and I'm typically a person who watches all the credits just because I'm a filmmaker, so I want to see everyone get their due. So I'm watching the credits, and we get to the the thanks part of the credits, where they thank their mom and dad and people who provided special assistance or inspiration to the filmmakers, and so there's this like big paragraph of names, and so I was just reading through them just really quickly. I mean, I wasn't really looking for anything, but all of a sudden something jumped out at me, and one was the name John Gill, who you may recall was the Federation historian who ended up recreating Nazi Germany on a planet and literally becoming the Führer. Let's see, he thanked Andy Griffith. He thanked, of course, the Akudas, and that all makes sense. But
why Andy Griffith?
I don't know. I don't know why. There's no explanations behind this, and that's part of the problem. I just thought it was an odd assortment of names, fictitious, real, people who literally had nothing that we could see that had to do with the film, and that's fine. You're entitled to do that. But then, in addition to the John Gill thing, they make in their own paragraph, they make a special mention of thanking our friends at the Fandom Menace, Doomcock, Overlord of the Earth, Mecha Random 42, and Midnight's Edge. Like, goes out of his way. And he also thanks Seth MacFarlane for preserving true Star Trek, as he put it. So a number of things come clear in terms of the perspective from which this guy's coming from. He doesn't like new Star Trek. And he's pro Fandom Menace.
Fuck him then.
And then the John Gill thing, and I admit this was pure speculation on my part, because now, I pointed it out in this article. It's not even an article. It was a post. It was a post I did on Facebook. It was not an Axamonitor official article. And all of a sudden, over in Fan Film Forum, I'm being excoriated for calling Kenny Smith, the creator of First Frontier, a neo-Nazi, which I did not. All I did was say, it's just weird that you put this guy's name in here. We don't know what the context is. And given who this character is, when it's not explained, it's just a very odd reference that raises flags. And so now, today, they're telling me that Kenny Smith says it was the name of his mailman. And he's thanking his mailman.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't.
There you go.
Maybe that's true. I don't know that. But that's not the point. My point wasn't, I was saying he was doing that. I was saying that it was just odd judgment to do that, a recognizable Star Trek name that could be easily misconstrued, which apparently I did, but anybody would. In addition, and that red flag got only redder because of the references to Seth MacFarlane and the Fandom Menace, and that's all I wrote. Well, I also wrote about all the guidelines that they broke, and we can talk about that separately as well, because there were a lot of them, and in fact, they went out of their way to not follow any of the guidelines.
Boy, did they ever!
And he made it quite clear that he wasn't going to follow the guidelines.
Exactly, because when the trailer came out, a lot of people started bringing this up, and they're maintaining that because they began production before the guidelines were issued, they were grandfathered in. First of all, the guidelines say nothing about being grandfathered in. Secondly, the notion of being grandfathered in is an extrapolation of comments made by John Van Citters in an interview about the guidelines right after they were released.
And I had grandfathered in. It went from everything that was already published.
No, I mean, so I will say that, like, you have this idea that, because Star Trek Continues violated if that's the case,
yes.
Star Trek Continues violated the fan film guidelines, 3 or 4 more times after they were released as well. Listening to John Van Citters on the former Engage podcast, which I'm glad is gone, and we get Tawny Newsome in the new podcast coming up. Led it to believe that if you were already doing something, if you're already like that again, these were guidelines, they weren't going to like come down like a hammer, so like, I mean, I think that's what gave the group Star Trek Continues, which our friend Casey Shafke was part of that group, kind of the yellow light to proceed, if that makes sense. And so, I mean, like, if you started this before, if this fan film was legitimately started before the guidelines, some of the more what Jonathan Lane would describe more the onerous type ones, like the length and things like that. I don't necessarily think. Yeah, I think that CBS is going to look the other way. I don't think CBS is too concerned about this fan film anyway. It's not like it's a stellar, awesome work that like makes Discovery look bad. Not that Axamonitor did that anyway. But like the one thing I would be concerned about if I was the people who put together this fan film is
made first.
Yeah, would be the publishers of the music.
Yeah, but CBS isn't they're not the ones who would be bringing any kind of copyright.
Exactly, but that's my point.
That. Yeah, and that's the guidelines specifically exempt. One thing they do is they exempt CBS from being responsible in any way for what they call third-party IP that's being used in a fan production, and the music being the most obvious one, and in this case was the most obvious one.
In which case people did not realize they do not own the rights to the original Star Trek story.
Right, of course. But here's the problem with the whole grandfathering argument around this is, yes, the guidelines are not rules. You're absolutely right about that. But what they do is they send a very strong signal about what CBS is willing to accept and what's going to be problematic for them. Because if you look at how the guidelines were described when they first came out, they were described as guidelines by which to avoid getting in trouble. Okay, they weren't guidelines that if you break them, we will sue you. That's not what they were saying. And we have seen on multiple occasions since the guidelines came out that CBS has been very flexible with some of these guidelines. They allowed Samuel Cocking's Temporal Anomaly to go almost feature length. They've made other concessions and enforced still others.
Well, yeah, Sam Cocking's had to retool Temporal Anomaly.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm getting to, and as well as with Star Trek Continues, and Renegades for that matter. All of those addressed some specific concerns that CBS had with their fan production, and having addressed the largest of those concerns, and number one, not trying to make any money off of any of their productions, gave them, some safe harbor there. But now let's contrast with what First Frontier is doing. Because being grandfathered in doesn't mean that you should go out of your way to antagonize the IP holder. It would have cost them nothing to follow the title guideline. So it wouldn't be Star Trek First Frontier. It would be First Frontier, a Star Trek fan production. There were a number of the guidelines that it would have been simple and either cheap or no cost for them to follow, to at least demonstrate that they were making an effort to respect the wishes of the IP holder. But they didn't. And most prominently around advertising. The guidelines are very specific, and John Van Citters was very specific that one of the reasons, the bright line you do not cross as a fan production is don't make money off of the IP. So what do we see in the credits? We see an actual advertisement for people to buy copies of the 11-foot long Enterprise model. They don't give a price. My guess is it's expensive because models like that aren't cheap, especially if they're lit and so forth. But why would you go out of the way to do that?
Because CBS is evil and corporations suck and power to the fans.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: if CBS decides to clamp down now on model building, reselling models of Star Trek IP, now this could probably be the catalyst. But if it winds up being anything at all, we've seen them taking a very hands-off approach on things like this, so they might just not. I mean, this might be so low on their radar. They're like, eh.
Maybe. I have no reason to believe CBS is going to take any action on any of this. But at the same time, and this is why I think it's so weird for Jonathan Lane to be standing up for them, is that all fan films are threatened by productions that flout the guidelines. They just are.
Well, you know how Lane is. He's got to protect her own. Apparently, this
rant time.
Okay, rant.
So, like you just said, Carlos.
Uh-oh.
Flaunting these guidelines and throwing them back in the face of CBS to own CBS and say, no, you don't have power, we do, does nothing to help your own case. You're not doing anything else but fucking over everyone else who wants to share their love of Star Trek through their own self-expression. It's the same goddamn thing that I went through with Gates of Sto-Vo-Kor, with Blood of the Near, with Starfinder, and all the other audio shows that I was taking part in, where the support just completely dried up when the fan film guidelines came out. Jonathan Lane, you're flouting of these rules and just straight up ignoring them is putting at risk every single creator that wants to do something of Star Trek for the love of Star Trek. A week ago, I was having a conversation on Facebook with someone who was talking about doing fan fiction, just writing Star Trek. And someone in the comments said, you got to be careful because CBS comes down on people. And you are the reason that CBS comes down on people. Knock it the fuck off. Rant over.
Good rant. Good rant. Yeah. Basically, it would have been very easy to at least demonstrate a good faith effort to abide by the guidelines, and going out of your way not to was, in my opinion, a mistake.
Ross, expect a 4-part diatribe on your rant upcoming on Fan Film Forum.
Yeah, Jonathan has already demanded that I issue a public apology to Kenny Smith for saying that he's a neo-Nazi.
Get fucked, Johnny.
You know what? Here's at the end of the day, Jonathan Lane.
It was the mailman. It was the mailman.
Jonathan Lane defends somebody, and is in the court of somebody who has, in my opinion, my personal opinion, abused Star Trek fandom for the best part of the last 4 or 5 years, right?
Oh no, the decade.
Or 7 years. 7 years, right? So
2012 is when the abuse started.
So Jonathan Lane, in my opinion, in my own personal opinion, in my own personal thoughts, can get bent.
In my own personal opinion,
like twice in 2 weeks that Jonathan Lane is demanding that people apologize. Jonathan, suck my ass, okay? And
I don't want this to devolve into just name calling at Jonathan Lane's expense, folks.
Hey, by the way, Jonathan Lane, if you're listening, once you start apologizing for the way your people have treated everybody on our side, then maybe.
First of all,
there are no sides.
There are no sides. There are no sides. I'm not on a side.
According to them, there are.
According to them, sure, but I do not base the way I treat other people on how they treat me. I base it on the way I believe people should be treated, and that's not the case over there. And that's
like
fine.
Maybe 1 or 2 people are actually really cool from over there, and then it's just like everybody's just like.
Justin, it's very difficult to hear you.
Yeah, I'm wondering what on.
Okay, so go ahead, Travis.
I just treat everybody equally. You're all equally assholes. Knock it off.
Oh.
Thank you, Simon.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
I gotta say, when it comes to Jonathan Lane, I do my best to stay on the neutral ground. I've approved some of his posts in the big Star Trek group when he writes his articles. There's been some protests when that happens, but whatever. I don't really care too much. But I mean, when I see some of the comments that he makes in his little fan film factor group or whatever it's called, I really gotta ask myself. I don't know what goes through this guy's head. I truly and honestly believe that he has a passion for Star Trek, and I think that's cool, and I support that. But I mean, I don't. Which one of you was the guy that which one of you showed the? There was I guess Jonathan Lane edited his own page in Memory Alpha or something like that. And
he does that. He does that.
I guess the guy just has a bit of an ego or something.
No, it's worse than that. It's the problem is, and this is what I figured out, because he did the exact same thing to someone a couple of weeks ago who criticized the exploitation of Nichelle Nichols. Okay, where he demanded that this guy apologize.
I remember that.
And it was such a criticism that merely pointing out how this seems like exploitation of an elderly woman who doesn't have all of her faculties. And Lane's response to this was so ridiculous. And it occurred to me right at that point what Lane's deal is. Here's what Lane's deal is. Lane needs validation, is what it comes down to. He needs it from Alec Peters. He needs it from all these people, these fan films that give him access, okay? And that's what his big deal is. That's why he's demanding Carlos issue an apology over nothing. because he wants to be shown as a white knight to someone. Okay, he needs to be validated because for whatever fucking reason in his own personal life he doesn't get it. So this is where he gets all of his validation. Where I've literally seen this fucking guy post make blog posts that are 5,000 words long at 3 in the fucking morning. Okay, where it's like, you have a wife and family. You have a family here. What are you doing this nonsense? Okay. So it's like, I don't know what his deal is other than that he just needs the validation. He needs the access to these fan film people. That's what it comes down to.
So what you're getting at is that he's a Star Trek simp.
Pretty much. Yep. He's a fan film simp.
Yes.
He's exactly what he is. He's a fan film production simp. That's exactly what he is.
Okay, well, enough name calling. One last thing I wanted to point out from First Frontier, the actual film, as well as from the thanks section, also goes out of his way to thank, of all people, Tammy Faye Baker.
Huh?
Who? Tammy Faye Baker, the disgraced Christian televangelist with the big. She always cried all the time, and she had.
She's been dead since 2007.
Why?
Can I go on a tangent just for a second? Just a brief tangent.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason why I'm so passionate about exposing people who just are who seemingly ask for money for no good reason and use it for their own benefit is because when I was a child, my parents gave $1,000 to those shysters and didn't see anything from it because they didn't get their whatever they put their $1,000 deposit down for a timeshare and they went for a visit and that was all they got. Like, they didn't get a timeshare, they didn't get anything. It was like their money was gone. And it's why I'm so passionate about, people who take advantage of other people financially is just morally wrong. And it's why I initially got skin in my craw, bug in my craw about Axamonitor. And the fact that this guy would thank someone like that just blows my mind.
Sorry.
Well, now, of course, they're claiming that it's satirical.
I thought it. I would think it would be because he sounds.
And
like
maybe it is. Maybe it is. But there's no context to tell you that. When the only other context that you see are the fandom menace and pointing to a Star Trek character who recreated the Nazis in one episode, who turns out, I guess, to be a mailman. I don't know that that's true, but whatever. These are all red flags, and you should be, as a producer, aware of the signals that you send out. And it seems to me that if you're trying to appeal to a lot of fans, why would you single out for praise people that are polarizing the fandom? Like, that is their job.
Why would you satirize? Why would you satirize a woman like that? Why would you satirize in your credits? Period. Your credits are supposed to be about celebrating the people who brought your film together. Why would you even begin to satirize?
No idea, but I will tell you this.
That's the thing.
Like Joel Osteen as well.
If you look at one of the final scenes of the movie, he goes out of his way to have Robert April, Captain April, referred to God as him in his final sort of pep speech to the rest of the crew. So that was sort of out of nowhere and not very Roddenberry, who was a renowned atheist. Yeah, sort of. So anyway, that's what makes me think that. Why would this be satirical? Why would you go out of way to make a God reference in a very solemn speech by your main character, and then satirize someone who made money off of God in your special thanks section? It's just weird, and that was all the point of my post that I made on Facebook, was that I just thought it was some weird choices.
Well, can we talk about the elephant in the room on this regarding John Gill and, of course, what we just found out about Doomcock last
Exactly. I was trying
allegedly.
There's no evidence.
He is
only
credited
circumstantial.
There is evidence. It's just circumstantial.
Right.
I do want to walk back some of what Carlos just said because of you're judging Tammy Faye based on the first half of her life. The Tammy Faye actually became a sort of gay icon after the PTL scandal, because it was the gay community that basically embraced her brokenness essentially, and she became one of the biggest gay advocates in the Christian community, even though she was still disgraced from the community. In that. I mean, I would be, looking at something like that, I would be more okay with Carlos giving a special thanks to Tammy Faye than like film. Honestly.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from it. And it's just a thanks section. So maybe I'm not supposed to take away anything from it. But the point is, when you layer them on top of one another the way that you do, you are sending messages. Your credits send a message. Your scenes send a message.
Is it just possibly boomer humor? Is that what it is? Perhaps
it's not very funny.
You're not a boomer.
Yeah. I am.
Are you though?
Yeah, I totally am.
What year?
63.
Again,
as 67,
64. I just made it in under the
boomer. I don't know. Maybe Mel Brooks isn't a boomer because he has better credit humor than this.
As somebody who grew up as an evangelical and someone who still claims to faith, who still clings to faith or still holds to faith, Tammy Faye Baker is nothing but an embarrassment. Her and her husband are a shit stain on Christianity. And the fact that somebody would thank her, I get that she may have found redemption in other communities but she's somebody who was part of a organization that took advantage of people's faith and their goodwill. And I have a really hard time finding redemption for people like that.
Okay, well, I think we've expounded on this topic enough. We'll see how the drama continues to unfold as I issue my non-apology apology, and it will be a non-apology apology.
I mean, I'm sorry if we have morals and it bothers people. I'm sorry. I'd rather have morals than not have morals.
Well, the thing I found ironic about that post he made about you, Justin, in which he was sort of satirizing you by talking about how great a moral person you are and so forth, is that's exactly what he did to me. He got on his high horse just like you got on your high horse and criticized me for being a terrible fan of fan films, and that that I was poisoning the well, which I don't think I was, but
you are one of the most wholesome people in this group that I know, Carlos. So
don't lie, he's the worst. He is the worst.
Well, it's just interesting to me that I understand I'm certainly a lightning rod for those folks over there, and I won't lie, that was part of the reason why I posted in that group, but not the major reason, because I think it is important to point out high-profile violations of the fan film guidelines, and that's what this was. Quite apart from the actual quality of the film, which again, I think there's a lot to like in it, but there's these other problematic parts.
Let me ask you a question: Will Lane not recognize how problematic those fan film guideline violations are? Does he just not recognize it at all?
He just doesn't care. I mean, that's the thing. Unless it's something that directly affects him or Alex, he's not going to care.
And that's why I went on my rants.
It's so incredibly bizarre to me that that for this guy that claims to celebrate all fan films, except mine, of course, literally claims to celebrate all fan films, that he does not see the implications of a project like this.
Here's my fear. If people are going back, if people see that CBS is not doing anything, and they go back to willfully violating the guidelines because of people like First Frontier and what other people are doing. You know,
There's not going to be any guidelines.
they could clamp down on even more and to be like, look, no more fan films. We're done.
Yeah.
You know, we gave you all guidelines
right.
to follow in good faith, and you all have chosen not to do it. And you know what? You're all screwed. No more fan fiction. No more nothing. We're done.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, cut it all down.
And then we're right back to one crew, one screw.
And I mean, it's really unfortunate that should happen, but you know, look at the people in play here. It's the same group of players whenever it all started back in 2015, 2016. Well, longer, because a lot of it's been going on even longer than that. But when the main story started for all this, and here we are doing repeat in 2020. I mean, it's only a matter of time before CBS has enough, and they're going to have to do something. And we're probably not going to like the outcome because it's been abused way too long.
They're not going to go nuclear right away.
No, they're not going to go nuclear, but they need to do something. And the thing is, they have done something before. They did with Samuel Cockings. He had to retool some significant parts of his temporal anomaly in order to, re-release it. But he did so cheerfully, and it all worked out. And CBS was willing to relent on the guideline about how long it could be. So
because he respects
exactly
the medium, respects the IP.
I mean, and I'm assuming that's why Continues was allowed to go, because they have always been very respectful with CBS whenever they were asked to do anything. If they were asked to remove something, asked to change something, they did it, no questions asked.
I think the other reason CBS let Continues go was because they knew it was coming to an end. They knew that they were ending it sooner than they had even planned, and they knew that people had already given money into this thing, which was already in production. And if they just cut it off, then what happens to that money? It wouldn't go back to those people. I mean, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, but CBS has no control over that. So so they decided to let it out. And again, the folks at Continues have been very respectful. Anytime CBS has said, do this or do that, they have. Only Axanar has defied them. Therefore, only Axanar has ever been sued.
In our opinion.
That's a fact. Actually.
Only Axanar has been sued by CBS. That is a verifiable fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
As of the recording of this video.
That we know of. We don't know if there's been any other out of reach settlements or anything right now. Oh, I'm back. There we go.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of First Frontier, and I think the end of our Star Trek news for the week.
Let's talk about the other movie that had problematic credits.
Okay, let's do that. Jump in.
So Mulan just got released.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being met with a lot of mixed reviews. There seems to be people who think it's pretty okay. There are people who think, wow, this movie is terrible. They just instantly made Mulan a Jedi. And then there are the people who watched the end credits and went, whoa, what? Because apparently Disney's filming happened near the Muslim concentration camps in China.
Yeah, the week.
Yeah, the credits for Mulan specifically call out the Uyghur re-education camp, one of the re-education camp locations, as a thank you for filming nearby.
They thank the civil authority, the local government authorities, right near so basically they filmed right near a Muslim re-education camp. With the idea that they're thanking the government for letting them do the local government for letting them do that.
Yep. So what position do you think that puts Disney in? Like, should they have just not mentioned it at all? I mean, obviously they did shoot there. What do you think? What do you think were their options there, son?
I'll be honest. the smartest thing they could have done was not had that for the Western release, and literally kept it the Chinese release only. That would have been the smartest thing to do.
But the smartest thing to do is not film there to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's
Sure.
water under the bridge now. So my guess is that when this was shot, the news about what was going on in those camps and what they were for may not have been terribly well known in the West. So, and I'm not trying to apologize for Disney. I'm just saying that, they did it. It's done. They have this very large movie they've been trying to release for months now. And so they did. So I'm not sure what they could have done other than what they've done, and then own up to it. If they own up to it, then I think I would feel probably a lot more positive towards them. But the idea of not putting it in the Western release and only keeping it in the Chinese release, believe me, people would find out. We have people who.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm definitely
and that would be worse, don't you think?
Well, not really. Because
to willfully withhold that from the West?
You're talking about Disney, the company who does shit like that all the fucking time.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to hide it because it would get out so quickly.
Yeah, and guess what? They'd already have everybody's money.
And they already do.
Right. Well, here's the deal. Like we live in this weird world where like people are siding with the super left or the super right. Like at the end of the day, Disney made a business decision. In order to film there, they have to do certain things. Obviously, had they filmed anywhere else, that would have, if they didn't film in China, it would have been seen as a whitewash. It would have been seen as, whatever. They wanted to make this film. It was either placate the communist regime in China or not film there. Or not make the movie, and the most capitalist decision Disney could have made would have been just to placate China and make the movie,
which is what they did.
Yeah.
Now the problem, of course, is I don't think the movie's doing very well in China.
I mean, why would people think it would? Because the Chinese, this is a fact. The Chinese are far more interested in American movies with Americans in them. Okay, they're not. This is
the lighter Americans, at least.
The what?
The lighter Americans, at least.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we're like, for example, that movie with Matt Damon. I think it's called The Wall. Is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great Wall. Yeah.
The Great Wall. Right. Okay. So here's the thing: people in China didn't care about that. It's people in the United States cared about that. Okay, because they want to see American action stars in their films. So. This notion that it's not like I said, particularly surprising that Mulan is not doing particularly well in China. That's not what their audience wants.
And at the same time, they specifically crippled aspects of the original animation because the Asian market didn't like them, like Mushu. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well. Yeah, but now you're trying to do this live action thing, and China doesn't even want China live action.
Yeah, none of this seems to be very well thought out. Okay, I mean, the whole movie could have been done on green screen, and nobody would have known the difference.
Well, I mean, again, like they wanted to capture the authenticity of the land, and I appreciate that. I get that. Like, I get that there's, but it is problematic to thank the local government that's running re-education camps. Again, we're it's the 21st century. Like those types of things are evil. They were evil when Stalin ran them. They were evil when whoever. We've got to get past it. We've got to say, we can't. There's a place for compassionate or right capitalism. And that's what needs to emerge, in my opinion.
So, I mean, but the question at the end of the day is, what is Disney going to do to protest the atrocities against the Uyghurs? That's my question. And I'm going to guess not a hell of a lot. Because if they really wanted to take a stand at this point, this movie is signed. They say, you know what? We're not filming anything there anymore. And guess what? We really don't care to have our product be over there either. But they're not going to do that.
No, they're not.
Well,
No,
you have to remember. You have to remember, you guys. They spent $5.5 billion on Disneyland in China.
Well, okay.
They're in deep.
The Uyghurs don't care
And
about
the
that.
parks, but
No, of
it's
course,
kind of hard to
but-
believe. But the parks are their number one source of revenue, dwarfing everything else.
No,
As big as Disney Media is, as much IP as they own, it's all to enrich the parks.
Exactly. And you know, I don't think anyone. I having lived in Orlando and having seen Disney grow the way they've grown, specifically around the media to basically enrich their theme park properties, like, and I agree with you, Ross. But again, like, it comes down to, you know, whether we're talking about China or Russia, these totalitarian type regimes are extremely problematic, and it's really concerning that when you watch American companies get in bed, whether it's in Russia or China. Like, it's extremely, you know, and we see it with tech all the time, where, you know, tech is allowing censorship, allowing, you know, they're co-opting important ideals just for the dollar. And again, I'm a capitalist. I'm as anti-communist as I am anti-fascist. But at the end of the day, there's a place for moral capitalism and right capitalism. And if you're just chasing the dollar, you're going to fall on your ass and you're going to look like this.
Well, there's a reason for that. Companies aren't beholden to customers. Companies are beholden to their boards, and the boards want one thing and one thing only. They want to see their stock portfolio grow.
Right, but that all ties back to the customer. And we're seeing that with Netflix today.
It has nothing to do with the customer. The customer is incidental. It's all about the value of the stock, the value of the company, not the value of the product.
No, but the value of the company is tied directly to the value of the product.
Look, I'll put it this way. Disney just got through making, like, the most advanced filming studio setup thing in the fucking world with The Mandalorian.
Right.
Why the fuck didn't they use that?
It wasn't ready yet. You have to remember how long this movie's been in production.
But the thing about that film is, like, 80% of that film, if not 90% of that film, is done on green screen and on a studio set. Okay, it's not even these are sets. These could have been done anywhere. These could have been done in Pinewood Studios. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think my bigger issue with all this, not even bigger issue, but just an observational thing here, and it's an elephant in the room, that considering the lengths that Disney has gone out of their way, especially in the past year, 2 years, 5 years, to show how progressive they are. This is in complete contradiction to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yes.
I kind of think it is, and they still have not. Have they even said anything on this? Have they even responded to the?
They're not going to.
Right. I mean, that's problematic. You know, you basically, you know, at least from the looking at it from a, let
me put it to you this way,
side,
Sean. If you were their PR consultant, what would you counsel them to do?
Here's what I would say: that at the time we made this, that, you know, this issue was not widely known. We were unaware of it, and that we support human rights in all cases. And in the future, we will be more conscious of our choices, and that's it. I mean, you could say this without even attacking them.
So Disney did release a statement, and here it is. This is Disney CFO Christine McCarthy, right? So she's the one who's most holden to the shareholders. It's common knowledge to acknowledge in a film's credits the national and local governments allowed you to film there. It has generated a lot of publicity. Let's leave it at that.
That's it.
That's the statement.
See, and that's exactly what they should not have done. I mean, they're not even acknowledging the issue here. They're completely ignoring the issue.
The question is, given that there's not, they can't change the past. Really, what are their options?
Well, they also don't want to offend the governments because they want to continue filming there.
Well, they want to continue to have their theme park
their
business
parks. They have a park in Hong Kong and a park in
And
Shanghai.
don't pretend to be progressive, okay? That's bullshit. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, but you see, that's not just a Disney thing, though. That's a blanket corporate greed thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'd rather give them just be honest about it. Just be honest. Don't keep loading us up with your platitudes and your bullshit. Okay, if you don't really, at the end of the day, care about anything more than profit, just be honest about it. Just focus on your profit and be at that. So
Especially with how they treated John Boyega.
Yeah. I mean,
which was also a Chinese problem. You know, China is a. I don't want to veer off too far into like international politics, but China is a growing problem for the United States, and we have been so focused on the ability to market products and services there that we're letting a lot of this slip by. You know, China, for example, they have been actively, you know, they surveil their own people more than any other country on the planet, which is, you know, fine in their own, but they are selling that same technology to other, you know, right-wing, strong-armed governments for them to replicate. And it's a bad thing to replicate that sort of thing, to allow that to be replicated, because
it's not just your Californian governments are selling it to. They literally sold that technology to the UK, who itself has got cameras everywhere.
Mm-hmm. You want to see something truly dystopian? Look up social credits.
Yep. Yeah. It's
well, we're going there.
Yes. Yeah, we're going there. We're going there. Actually, I'm going to talk about that a little bit in what we watched this week. So
that's the meritocracy of Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any final word on Mulan? Did anyone see it? I know you've seen it, Sean, because you did a big outdoor projection of it at your house.
I did.
What did you think of the movie?
In fairness, despite all this bullshit, I enjoyed it. It's straight up, and I have not been spoiled by having ever seen the animated film, and I didn't want to, because I didn't want to have any expectations of it. So I went into this fresh with this notion that this is just it's a typical Disney story, and with done in the big budget level. This is the best live action version of a animated film they've done yet. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was very good.
Anyone else seen it?
You've never gotten down to business to defeat the Huns.
Stop it.
Did
I
they
live for
send
Travis
me
saying,
daughters when I asked for sons?
Yeah, see, that's the thing about the original Mulan. There's a lot of just like heavy gender binary like stuff that gets you canceled on Twitter today in Mulan.
What gets you canceled on Twitter? God, it's like
J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah.
But I think the funniest thing to me is watching all the defenders of Mulan go, it's so authentic to this, that, or the other. They needed to get rid of Mushu to keep the authenticity, and it's like, bitch, this movie has a like face-changing witch in it, apparently.
Yes.
How the hell is that supposed to be authentic to anything?
She's a shapeshifter, straight up.
It's just as much myth as Mushu coming to life.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Apparently, Mulan has the same power, but she can't access it because she's not true to herself as a woman, because she's masquerading as a man.
Oh, is that really what it says?
No.
It is J.K. Rowling.
So
that's
so
not
wait,
really.
wait. So the live action film is even worse
That's a bastard. That's really a bastardization of the sentiment in the film. That's really taking it too far.
That's what I got from a review.
No, it's not.
I haven't seen it. I don't think I'm going to. I was over.
It wasn't about being true to yourself. It was about being true to yourself. Period. It really had no. She just happened to be a woman, and that was the message.
I've been over the whole live action remakes since Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, which was good too, by the way.
No, Beauty and the Beast was good.
What?
It was okay, but it was a shot-for-shot remake of the animated series with maybe with what 2 songs added in.
But Emma Watson was delightful.
I'll grant you that. But if I'm going to see a live-action remake of a classic movie, I want to see them do something different from it. I loved Maleficent. Maleficent was beautiful. If they do more of that, I will watch them. But if they're just going to rehash what they've already released. No, thank you.
I thought Disney's live-action remakes jumped the shark when they did the live-action remake of Lion King, which is all fucking CGI.
Yeah,
I kept asking the same question over and over. It's not live action. It's animated. So it's not. I don't understand.
Yeah, there you go. Well put, Jason. Okay.
National Geographic presents The Lion King.
Yeah, let's wait for the next Pixar movie. It'll be live action too.
They're actually thinking about quite seriously about a live action version of Lilo and Stitch.
No, my kid told me about that. Of course, my kids told me about that.
I might be interested in that.
I saw that movie. It's called E.T.
I love Lilo and Stitch.
I mean,
it's here.
Again, what was good? You know, there's a reason why you go see plays. There's a reason why plays tour. There's a reason why you have because seeing different actors. I mean, you could have the exact same, you have the same script, right? Like whether you see A Few Good Men and on screen or you see it in the theater or whatever.
It's Alec Peters do it.
I wasn't going there. It's nice. It's nice. It was like I said, like Beauty and the Beast. It was nice to see that because again, you know, seeing Emma Watson and seeing all that, like it was nice. I think there's value in it because it's like a play, but bigger, grander, more grandiose. Again, that's not my problem with Mulan, or it's this idea that like, hey, we did this in the backyard of a concentration camp. Let's pat ourselves on the back.
Well, I won't see it until December 4th when it goes for free on Disney Plus because I ain't paying $30 to see a movie with this much baggage. So, but I will watch it probably when it comes out, so I have an opinion. Okay, let's move on to another quasi-Disney related topic, and that was about the Mandalorian. And they released some of the first images from the second season, which is due to premiere in October. And Jon Favreau is comparing the next season to the Game of Thrones. So what do you all think of...
So we're going to have a lot of gore and tits and sex?
I would hope he's referring to the books and not the TV series in its later seasons.
Good question. I don't know.
If the child dies, we riot.
Well, look, have I not said before that, you know, it kind of makes sense because look, Star Wars is basically fantasy anyway. So why not have it be an epic type of tale like in Game of Thrones?
But Game of Thrones is a depressing mire of muck.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be the
I don't want this to be a depressing mire of muck. The first season wasn't a depressing mire of muck.
I don't think that's what he meant.
But that means
Go ahead, Jason.
When someone says Game of Thrones, I think of the Red Wedding. I think of Stark getting his head cut off at the end of the first season. Like I think of all the really shitty things that happened over the course of that series run. And
spoilers.
I don't want to see that happen to Baby Yoda. I'll be pissed.
We lost Justin.
So, dude, you were there'll be riots in the street if that happens. Right?
Can't you just have the Hobbit out of the Mandalorian?
We lost Justin, I think.
Yeah, we did.
I still have producer control, so we're good.
Oh, good. Come back, Justin.
I've never seen
There he
Game
is.
of Thrones. so
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean,
what
my
to
sense
think
is
of it.
that
Yay!
I think that they're talking about sort of the epic scale of it. Jon Favreau in the interview talks about telling a bigger story, that the story we see about the Mandalorian is part of a bigger story they're telling about the bigger Star Wars universe at this time. And I think that it's a prominent part of that bigger story, and I think that's what he means. That's what I
want more Moff Gideon. That's all I'm saying. Give me more Moff Gideon.
I want me some black
Just
saber.
so long as at some point he gets half his head face blown off, I'll be happy.
But no, it's you like in Breaking Bad. Good call.
Yeah.
Very good. But that's the whole
Well
point of
done,
this. It's
well.
like this is my favorite part of the new season of The Boys is the fact that Giancarlo Esposito is there, and he is literally just like he is in The Mandalorian playing Gus Fring on the show. And he just keeps taking Gus Fring and applies it everywhere, and it works.
And you see
I
it
love it.
every single time he comes on screen. It's fucking awesome.
It's great. It's perfect. It's
He's a
And
very
I also got to
compelling
get the boys
antagonist.
prop. I gotta get the boys prop. The gore that they're displaying this season is top notch.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing like a eviscerated whale. Ouch.
Wait, no spoilers.
What
You're
about-
getting into what I've been
Oh.
watching this TV.
That was in the trailer,
Stop.
buddy. That was in the trailer.
That was in a trailer.
Okay, we'll talk about it when we get to your thing, Jason. One thing I do want to talk about The Boys, and I think a good number of us have seen at least some of the first 3 episodes, which were all released at the same time
Hold on,
last week.
Carlos. Before we get to that point, we need to.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler.
All right, spoiler
Someone
alert.
wave when you guys get done, because
Okay, this isn't actually any spoilers of the story. It's more about the weekly release schedule that Amazon has gone to with The Boys. Amazon, as most of you know, their Prime Video, like Netflix, drops entire seasons all at once for people to binge all the way through or watch at their leisure or whatever. And Hulu has begun doing the 3 at a time and then weekly thereafter in the last year or so. They did that with Castle Rock. They did it with Little Fires Everywhere. And it turns out that the producers of The Boys, the choice to go to a weekly release after the first 3 episodes was actually their choice, not Amazon's. Amazon did not impose that choice on them. And the reasoning for this I thought was really interesting, and I'd love to hear what you guys think of this. Their reasoning is essentially that they want it to become water cooler talk for people to talk about it every week, all at the same time, and sort of discover it all at the same time, the way you used to with network television, and that's part of what they were trying to show. They wanted time in between the episodes for people to think about it, talk to other people about it, and then look forward to the next Friday's installment. Thoughts? Given that you now know that the producers wanted to do this because that's the way they wanted to tell their story.
Well, I'll jump in on this because we're clearly talking about Eric Kripke, who was behind this, and Eric Kripke is also the genius behind 15 seasons of Supernatural. So let's not forget that. So, needless to say, what he proved in the first season is that he could easily transition from a standard network television show that is weekly into a streaming show, and that he knows what the hell he's doing. So I'm of the perception of this that him going for this, I think I'm going to trust him on this because, like I said, I've been trusting Eric Kripke for 15 fucking years when it comes to Supernatural. And he stole my heart in 24 hours with 8 episodes of The Boys last year. So that's where I'm at.
And he's only really disappointed one season, really.
And it really wasn't even that bad.
No.
It's kind of, it's like it's like you've got like I was watching the I was watching the Mets game tonight, and of course we've got 2-time Cy Young Award winner Jacob deGrom on the team, and he let up he let up 3 hits and 1 run and had nine strikeouts, and they're like, well, it's an off night. Well, that's a pretty good fucking off night to have, is what it comes to. So, and that's kind of like, that's how I kind of look at Supernatural. It's like, even the one bad season, wasn't that bad. So.
And holy crap, talk about dedicated fans.
Yep. Gotta love Supernatural fans. Yep.
My wife is a Supernatural fan. She's absolutely gaga over Misha Collins.
And
I noticed about Supernatural fans, they're like, honestly, it's the least annoying of the fandom, of all the fandoms.
Yes, they're very nice. They bake cookies.
They're very nice people. Yep, they are very nice people.
But on an interesting Supernatural note, for season 3 of The Boys, which has already been announced, joining them as Soldier Boy will be Jensen Ackles.
Jensen Ackles, yes, awesome. Yep.
Yeah, so
it's going to be
awesome.
Well,
that means Jared Padalecki's got to show up at some point.
Yep, without question. Yep, they got to do it the same way they did with Legend of Tomorrow, where they somehow got Dominic Purcell and I'm trying to play. Basically, the 2 stars of Prison Break on the same show. That's
on the same show.
Well, Supernatural also made a camera on Legends of Tomorrow. Well, the car did.
Ed Jensen's keeping the Impala.
Yeah, they're letting them keep the Impala.
Good for him.
Yeah, I've seen that post today.
Which one? They have a fleet of them. I mean,
all he needs is
one.
It's not like it's people. Oh, they let them keep the Impala. Well, no shit. What are they gonna do with all those Impalas they got? Come on.
That's true. It's easier to get rid of them that way.
It's like you're trying to tell people, like, there wasn't just one General Lee or one kit. Okay, there were several. Okay.
Well, I mean, my thought on this is that it's just two words: premature ejaculation.
No, stop it.
No, but like the idea of binging, I've gone back and I've watched other shows binged, and it's great to be able to binge. At the same time, there is the satisfaction of like kind of that anticipation and that build up, and you get to watch it this week, and it's like Lower Decks. Had we had Lower Decks released all at one time, we would have watched it all and we'd be done with it. We would have talked about it, and we'd be moving on. And we don't have that. Every week we have a build up, we have a new show, and we have something to talk about. I think it's really smart to get away from binging. If you're a show creator and you want to create buzz, do you do it all at one time, or do you do it over 10, 12, 13-week periods where you can continually ride that wave of excitement and talk?
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly important right now because of the lack of content that's out there, that the Boys can really make a name for itself with this.
Yeah, you can stretch it out.
Yeah. And
one thing I do want to talk about, not this week, but when more of us have seen more of the episodes, I want to talk about Stormfront. Fascinating character. And so I don't want to spoil too much this week. So the rest of y'all watch it so we can talk about it. Okay. All right, let's move to our final segment of our show, and that is what are we watching? So we will go round robin and find out what was at the top of your list of stuff you watched this week. And we will start with the Eyebrows of Doom, Ross Bullock.
Today I am bringing you the choice selection of YouTube. The Black Pants Legion has released their latest Tex Talks Battletech episode. And instead of just talking about hard mechs, they try and create a larger narrative around it, talk about the lore and the setting and the history that leads up to, in this case, the Mackie, the first battle mech of the Battletech universe. And in a universe that's all about giant mechs shooting each other until they explode, that's a big deal. So it goes into the history of the world as it relates to the creation of the mech, what led up to it, whole worlds being nuked to death. It's a compelling story. It's well done, excellently paced, wonderfully written, beautifully scored, and has some of the most beautiful artwork I've seen in a video like this in a very long time.
You could also almost say it was a compelling score.
No.
No.
Good answer, Ross. Okay, let's go over to Jason. What was at the top of your watching list?
No. So much to my chagrin, I've started to watch The Boys. It's a very with Jack Quaid is great. Like, so it's
He's fantastic.
He is. So I wanted to start watching it because I've really enjoyed listening to his voice and watching Boimler on. So yeah, and they said it in whatever he said, that basically they got his body right in the panel, whatever. But this is an incredibly fucked up show. Pardon my French.
Yeah.
Welcome. Like they freaking threw a dolphin out of a van and ran it over with a semi.
I take offense to this.
Fuck.
What kind of fucking dark shit is that?
Couldn't they do it to an otter or something?
Stop it.
No, it was a
Spoiler alert.
They get on an airplane to save the people in, like, whatever his name is, Homeland or whatever, just screws the controls and they just leave them to die. And they sit there and they watch them crash. This is an incredibly dark show.
Show's dark as fuck, dude. It's
Yeah.
dark as fuck.
It is very dark.
But
Darkly delightful.
But it's got Carl Urban and it's got Jack Quaid, which are two of my two of the more the better recent additions to the Star Trek universe. So
the guy that plays Homelander can make a good Chris Pine replacement.
He's too old.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
The guy that plays Homelander was actually in a really good show on Cinemax called Banshee that ran for several seasons. If you ever get a chance to watch it.
Okay, well, Sean, since you're talking, let's go to you. What was at the top of your list this week?
That was it. I watched the first 3 episodes of that, and I watched Awake. Awake, is that it? Away was
on
Netflix. Which we didn't talk about. And Away was, I'd say, the biggest thing I watched all week. That I got through an hour. I got to the first episode, and I said, "Okay, I'm done. That's fine." Because and my complaints with the show is it's incredibly slow paced. Number one, okay, to the point where
quick background for folks who don't know what it's about.
Basically, it's a story about a team of international astronauts that are going to start the first colony on Mars. Okay, or the first landing on Mars, and they started out and they go to the lunar base first to do this. Okay, so that's what I got from it, because I mean, it really, the amount of flashbacks and flash forwards and all this other crap that they go through in this to get to that point, it's so disjointed that I needed a PowerPoint presentation to keep up with it. So and it really wasn't compelling at all. It didn't make me want to watch the next episode. I found myself bored because it was basically very similar to the plot of the new Lost in Space series without any of the fun whatsoever. And it's just kind of depressing, and he's got nothing out of it. So that's my take on Away.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, Son, what was at the top of your list?
Okay, so a bit of deviation from VTuber D&D. I watched. Okay, so for those of you who know the Game Theory channel on YouTube,
yes,
they have a secondary channel called Food Theory.
Yeah, my kids watch all of them. Yep.
I've actually heard of this.
And one of their more recent videos is during the virus lockdown, they actually went to test the Chuck E. Cheese pizza. And because it's lockdown, guess what? Nobody's eating at Chuck E. Cheese. So when they got all the pizzas and the pizzas were all janked up, guess what? You can't claim that it's them reusing other people's pizza because nobody's in there. Turns out the pizzas made specifically at Chuck E. Cheese's are so, like, there's so little substance to the crust that this safety pizza cutter that they use that doesn't have a sharp edge will literally mangle a pizza trying to cut it. And remember the other controversy not a couple of months ago where they were pawning off supposedly Chuck E. Cheese pizza as a
Pasquale's.
Yeah. They actually went and got a couple of those pizzas too, because the PR statement from those was that the crust was more substantial and there was more sauce and toppings on it, right? And they got a couple of those pizzas, and because they're made in the same kitchen, used with the same safety pizza cutter, they expected to have it be all mangled. And no, because it's a more substantial crust, it looks like every other fucking pizza you get from a pizza place. So apparently,
which is a good thing, right?
Fascinating.
Yes.
Okay.
So apparently,
I'm actually very compelling.
So apparently, Chuck E. Cheese as a pizza place for kids is just cheap ass on their pizza, and when they actually try to make real pizza that's substantial, it's just fine.
Remember the good old days when Chuck E. Cheese actually made really good pizza?
No.
Okay, it was
Remember
like
the good days when there was actually good pizza?
It was 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So that's
you were 6 and couldn't tell the difference.
I remember those days. Those places were called Showbiz Pizza.
Right. And my cousin's dad made the robots, made Billy Bob and the Rocket Fire Explosion band.
The Rocket Fire, they still exist. The guy who originally owned that IP, he sold the restaurants, but he kept the animatronics and he takes them on tour. The Rocket Fire Express, they still exist.
He was a former Disney Imagineer who did a lot of the animatronics. He did this but yeah, Chuck E. Cheese never had good pizza.
Awesome.
It's not true.
And of course, Travis would know.
Dude, I was a kid. I went there. Their pizza was always trash.
I was a kid too, and
I never had a good pizza.
The pizza
Never.
was delicious and wonderful.
I tell you, only one place that I remember as
their beer is great
had
though.
Good pizza. It was a place called Godfather, and they went out.
Carlos.
We
lost Carlos.
Hey, look, he's frozen.
We're going on and on and on and on about pizza, and
I was wondering why he hadn't spoken up yet. Hey, Travis, how about you take it from here?
Welcome back.
Oh, there he is.
We're going to Travis.
All right, Travis.
Well, I am going to do a bit of a tone shift here, because the most interesting thing that I watched was today, of all days. We watched a documentary which today is one of my personal favorite documentaries ever made, and it is simply titled 9/11.
Oh,
and I'm sure some of you may have seen this documentary.
I own it.
It is made by two French filmmakers who were on scene at the Trade Center. It features the only known footage filmed from inside the Trade Center, and it's very sobering footage. It's just the way they put together this detailed account of just everything that happened that morning. When you're watching this, what you see and hear is just out of your mind. If you're watching just like a broadcast of what happened that morning from like a local news station or whatnot, you don't see just what these people saw, what they experienced, and like, just, oh man, it's some of the things in this documentary, just like, they really sit you down and really make you reflect on that day. A couple things that I personally found myself shocked watching this documentary again. After the first plane hits, one of the filmmakers walks from the fire department to the Trade Center itself, because it's I guess it's only about 2 blocks away from where they are shooting, and he's on the ground level, and he's just filming, looking up at the towers as the North Tower is burning, and out of nowhere the second plane just comes in. Like, you don't, it's very sudden, and it's very like, wow. Like, I mean, I remember watching some of the news footage from that day, and a lot of the news footage actually like showed the plane like slowly approaching, or you could see it approach, or it's just with this, it comes out of nowhere, and I can't imagine what people were thinking when they saw that. It's very like, oh, another thing that really personally affects me is that inside the tower, whenever someone jumps from the towers,
That sound.
yes, it creates a very, very loud and disturbing sound. And like, that's the one thing that's always stuck with me from this attack, is I cannot picture myself being in the tower, being all the way up there, and being faced with two inevitabilities. I don't know what I'd do in that situation. And hearing, oh geez, it's like, this documentary is really good, but it's very sobering.
Yeah, and when I want to cut you off here, but I own that on DVD. I have for years, and the reason they have the footage they do is because they were not making a documentary about 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they were making a documentary about a rookie firefighter at the Engine 9 fire department.
Yeah,
and that's what that was about. They just happened to be there, and
mm-hmm.
of course, history was changed on that day. And you see the scene where they're responding to a mundane call about a gas leak from the street, and the camera pans up because they hear the noise, and the camera pans up, and you see the plane flying into the building, and it's so incredibly surreal. And it's amazing what Travis is talking about here, because every time I think of that and how devastating that thing is to watch, that whole documentary, I'm reminded, the thing that sticks out in my mind every single time is the shots from inside of the world of I think it's Tower 1.
Yeah, Tower 1.
And you can see, you hear the boom, and you don't see them, but you see the impact is what you see from the inside, looking at the windows on the outside. And it's devastating to watch. It really is something else. Yeah, it's just, I think it should be required viewing for everyone to really, we keep saying never forget. Well, you watch this, you'll never forget.
Another suggestion: John O'Neill, the man who knew. He was a FBI counterterrorism investigator who was looking into the first attack on the World Trade Center and had almost all the information, but was caught up in the political machinations of the FBI as it was fighting itself over it being enforcement or anti-terrorism.
Right.
He ended up taking a job at the World Trade Center and died in the attack on September 11th.
Ouch, irony.
All right, let's
Justin,
keep on moving on.
Justin, you
okay, well, yeah, well, I blame you, Carlos, for this. I got roped into watching all two seasons of Cobra Kai, which I know it's a no-show. It's been out for a while, but it's recently come to Netflix, so it's regained popularity, and yeah, so I watched it on a whim and got sucked into it. I hate Carlos for it because that's another one he's got hooked on.
Well, I try to pick only the best ones for you, Justin.
Well, I know, and you do a good job of it. But but yeah, now I'm waiting for season 3, and it's not going to be out till sometime in 2022. So
no, it'll be out next year.
Oh well,
yeah, it's next year. Yeah.
Next year.
Oh,
it's just
still,
for those of us
like,
that watched it on YouTube. It'll be 2 years before we get to watch it.
Yeah. So we've been waiting a long time. But I'm glad you saw it. It is a very well done show, no doubt.
And yeah, I mean, no, it's a great show, and I look forward to it. I've been watching some of the panels that they've been doing about it, and there've been a few recent ones. If you haven't seen them, I recommend to watch it and check it out.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad actually that shows like that that had sort of a limited number of people watching it get a new, second life, second wind on things like
and
that.
it's a sequel to a movie, and I mean TV shows.
3 movies.
Usually those don't do too well, and this is actually pretty good.
Well, because this show does something that no other movie sequel series has done, and that's kind of make you rewatch the original source material in a whole new lens, right?
Yeah.
I think when I grew up, I was, when did the Karate Kid come out? 84, 85?
84, 85. Yeah.
So I was 8
when
or
it came
9.
out.
I was 8 or 9. John, Johnny was the hero. He was, or not Johnny.
Daniel.
Daniel was the hero.
Son.
And now you see everything in it. You see it, the world in a much more gray. And you get older and you can go back and you revisit it. You see the virtues of what Daniel and Mr. Miyagi were teaching, what Mr. Miyagi was teaching, and you can see the corruption of Kreese, and I mean you can see how that plays out in Johnny's life. But Johnny's no longer a bad guy. He's just somebody who's on a different path.
And I love how they balance all the characters. I mean, you never know what to expect. And it's nice. It's welcome rehash of
They develop
everything.
the characters from beginning to end so very well. All of them get incredibly well developed. And back to what Jason, I pointed this out too. It's like I went back and I watched Karate Kid a few weeks ago before I started rewatching Cobra Kai, and it really, mind you, I've already seen Cobra Kai, and I really went back and I went, for most of the movie, Daniel is almost as much of a dick as Johnny is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you see. And I don't know if y'all knew this. They reused some canned footage in season 1, season 2 of Cobra Kai that was meant for Karate Kid, and some of the flashback scenes. Daniel and Johnny.
I noticed that the trophy scene where Kreese breaks the trophy is not in the Karate Kid.
No.
That movie ends with Mr. Miyagi's face fade to black. Actually, it's just like stops, the dead stop, and credits roll is what. So that whole scene doesn't happen, but it's in Cobra Kai, and it's perfect because it explains a part of the narrative that we never saw before. Which is, I think it's
an expanded universe, Sean.
Oh.
The other side of this too is that at the end of the day, it's like I've said before, the show is incredibly self-aware. This and it pokes fun of itself at the right moments, and it makes it points out things, and that basically the premise is here you have in the Karate Kid, you've got teenagers who are dickheads by nature, and you've got your main protagonist, your main antagonist, Johnny and Daniel, and this is in the Karate Kid, that simply have different adults giving them guidance. They both need adult supervision. They just have two entirely different people providing it to them, and which sets them on their paths in life. But as you see in Cobra Kai, without Mr. Miyagi, even a guy in his 50s, he's still a dick, and he becomes more of a dick in Cobra Kai.
He's not a dick. He's not a dick.
Daniel
He's
not a dick. I mean he's arrogant and
he's misguided.
Dude, he tried to, he was going to buy out a plaza just to kick a guy out of a dojo, but instead settled for having the owner of the thing raise the rents on everybody in the plaza.
Again, like that's
a dick move.
Trauma.
Dick move. Still a dick move.
But he also gave Johnny a friggin' awesome car.
Well, because his wife made him. He wouldn't have done that. The wife wasn't there.
Here's the thing. Cobra Kai is great. I've enjoyed the first 2 seasons, and all of us should thank the god awful mid 2000s sitcom How I Met Your Mother for the premise. As a Barney Stinson calling Johnny Lawrence the Karate Kid is why we have it.
There's also, have you guys ever seen the video, the YouTube video, Daniel's Real Bully?
But all that stemmed from Barney Stinson in How I Met Your Mother.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Good point. Good point.
But yeah, it's a good show. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Give it a chance. It'll suck you in just like everything else we recommend.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up with what I watched. Obviously, The Boys, like most of you. Raised by Wolves. Not going to talk about it too much because I want the rest of you to see it, who are able to see it, for us to do a formal review of it on the podcast. I saw the pilot episode of Away. I didn't hate it as much as Sean did, but the one I want to talk about is it's a delightful little series on Netflix, just dropped this week, called Julie and the Phantoms, and it's about this young girl. She's, I think, in like sophomore in high school, named Julie, who has lost her mother, and she's a musician. She's a singer. She plays piano, and she's so traumatized by her mother's death that she can't play music anymore because her mother taught her to play and sing. And then these three boys from a boy band from 1995 who died just before they were going to give the concert of their lives at the Orpheum in Los Angeles. They died because they ate bad hot dogs on the street, and then they sort of magically appear in her life and help her rediscover music. And they have this weird thing where whenever they're all singing together, her and the guys, regular living people can see them, and then as soon as they're done, they take their bow at the end of the song, they poof out, and they're gone. It's based on a Brazilian series of the same name, although obviously in Portuguese, and it is delightful. It made me cry a couple times. The songs are pretty good. The director and creator of it is Kenny Ortega, who was behind the film version of Newsies. He did all the High School Musicals. He did The Descendants on Disney Channel. This is all very much in his wheelhouse, and it's really well done. It's a very great, heartfelt story. It's gotten quite a few very good reviews. So if you like music and ghosts, it might be up your alley.
What was it called again?
It's called Julie and the Phantoms. Just released this week on
Phantom.
Each episode. There are 9 episodes. They're only half hour each, so easy to binge. I binged it all last night and this morning. So, and really, really liked it. But I used up a couple of Kleenexes, no doubt. All right, so that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got some things to look forward to next week. Of course, our weekly review of Lower Decks. I'm sure there'll be more Star Trek news, and we'll go from there. Of course, you'll get to hear what we're watching next week. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. And thanks to my fellow hosts for your wit and wisdom this week. For those of you who are interested, please stick around for our post show in which we all cover our favorite Florida man stories of... Thank you, Justin. So we'll give everyone who needs to go a chance to go, and we'll stick around for a little longer for Florida Man.
Florida Man.
Warp me.
All right, guys.
Yeah, warp me.
Florida man clad only in underwear stole and attacked homeowner. Police say.
Florida Man.
You guys have a good night. I'm gonna head to bed.
Good night, Travis.
4 girls to feed in the morning. Good night.
Gotta go watch Star Trek Lower Decks.
Florida woman arrested after testing products in middle of adult toy store.
Florida woman.
Florida lady.
Florida man
Florida
allegedly
lady.
carrying 78 pounds of meth during Montana traffic stop.
Florida meth head.
Florida man breaks into jail to see his friends, police say.
Florida jailbird.
Seriously, what is it about that state, you guys?
All the meth heads still there to party.
You know what it is it's an amalgamation of the entire country, right? So, I mean, I was born there, right? So I was born in Orlando, and 43 years ago.
So is that your problem?
That's my problem.
Okay.
No, but there just is. It's people from all over the country, and the 2000 election really kind of cemented the reputation of Florida just kind of being a crazy. So I mean, I think if you type in like Georgia man, or if you typed in any other state, I think you'd find kind of crazy stories. But I think that, it's funny to do it about Florida, and I'm okay with it because it's a crazy ass state.
Yeah, well, I mean, Florida man actually has the calling. So, I mean, I think
Florida man fatally shoots mom after he quote unquote lost it over argument about orange juice.
See, that's a very Florida story.
Florida man bought a $700,000 boat with PPP money.
Oh, that's actually an old Florida man story. We covered that 2 weeks ago.
3 times.
Florida man.
Okay, here's one that's topical. Florida man accused of beating and spitting on an elderly victim who asked him to social distance.
Dumbass Florida man.
Florida. So here's a good guy Florida man story.
Uh-oh.
Florida man steals car with baby inside, drops off baby at nearby gas station.
That's a good story, Florida man.
That is a good guy Florida man story for a Florida man story.
Don't know that qualifies.
Here's one. Florida man allegedly pretends to be prosecutor to drop charges against himself.
Florida man.
Here's a good one.
Florida.
Here's a good one. Florida man arrested for impersonating officer after trying to pull over a real cop.
Florida man. Florida man.
Wow. That one sounds like you're dying, Justin.
I might as well be
dead.
I try to skip over the really violent ones.
Yeah, there are unfortunately quite a few of those.
Here's one from home, where I'm from. Florida man accused of firing shots near Altamont Springs, striking truck and fence.
Out of town, Florida man.
Florida man finds $500,000 being smuggled in a cushion chair.
Wow.
Florida man with money.
Yeah, this guy had a neck tattoo.
Florida woman calls 911 to report alligator in her shed. Sheriff's deputy discovered it's a pool floaty.
Hey, some of those pool floaties can be pretty good.
Florida woman.
There was actually back in 2019, the Washington Post ran an article in their Sunday magazine called "Is It Okay to Laugh at Florida Man?" What it's like to go viral. What it's like to go viral as one of the internet's biggest memes and the moral complications of laughing along.
Florida man, yeah.
I am sorry, but it's absolutely okay to laugh at Florida man.
Here's actually a heartbreaking one. Ooh.
Oh,
Florida
no.
man who went by Mr. Satan was living anonymously in a nursing home. Then the staff realized he was a blues legend.
Florida man tries to flee
Florida
deputies
man.
Until his pants fall down.
Florida man.
Where's Sean
Florida
when we
man-
need him for that story?
Florida man dies after jumping out of lift ride getting hit on interstate.
Dumbass.
He got out of a car on an interstate?
Yep.
Dumbass.
Florida man.
Natural selection halfway.
So the guy's name was Sterling McGee and was half of a duo known as Satan and Adam.
Wow.
Sorry.
Which one was he?
Satan.
He was Satan, of course. Satan?
Florida man bitten by nurse shark that won't let go.
It's tenacious shark.
Florida man.
Not Florida shark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else you're finding?
Florida man accused of giving beer to an alligator.
Florida man.
Florida man arrested after fighting neighbor over biting campaign sign.
Florida man.
Florida man wearing "No, seriously, I have drugs" T-shirt arrested for drug possession.
Florida man. Right out.
Florida man cuffs on, slaps employee after being asked to leave for refusing to wear a mask.
Florida man.
Indeed.
With COVID.
Florida man faked his murder using a gun and a weather balloon. What?
Weather balloons are the explanation for all mysteries.
But how?
Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Uh-oh. It's good.
12-foot gator lunges 3 feet out of water, chomps Florida man's arm.
Of course he would.
One-armed Florida man.
I used to go fishing in that lake too. That was Lake Jessup. Wow. That lake, if you ever fly over that lake in a helicopter, it's like just polka dotted with alligators.
Wow.
Why would anyone swim in that lake?
Well, you don't swim in that lake. You fish in that lake.
Why would anyone swim in that lake?
They don't.
Boating is pretty popular in that lake, though.
Just don't go overboard.
So this was actually one that I thought was actually rather genius. Florida teen shuts down remote schooling by launching a DDoS attack.
Oh, I love it.
Hilarious. Florida teen.
Or Florida geek.
Florida geek.
Drunk Florida man crashes into sheriff patrol car with 2 deputies inside it.
Drunken Florida man. With a DUI. And jail time.
Naked Florida man arrested after found in the bathroom at assisted living facility in the Villages.
Oh, the Villages. Let me tell you. The Villages is a 55 and up community out in Leesburg, Florida. It's probably about 30 minutes outside of Orlando, 45 minutes outside of Orlando. Them's are some horny old folks. like there'll be like
all retirement communities.
There'll be like spreads of like syphilis.
Holy moly!
Yeah, like you know, like you think that now you know why COVID takes off in Florida, because all these old horny folks.
And when we get off air, I've got a story to share.
Well, I do have to go. So, do we have any other Florida man things before
I'll end the broadcast?
All right. Thanks for joining us, those who stuck around for Florida Man, our weekly post-show segment.
All right, we'll see you all next week. Okay, hang on here. Let me end this, and I won't shut us